I don't even know how to start. Don't even know how to start this live. Last 24 hours have literally changed my life. And like all of us, when something major happens in your life, you're sitting here trying to process it. You know, in some ways, you've got to come out and say the right things, but we'll get to the point, I suppose. Wondering what I'm on about. It probably all started quite a long time ago. One of those speeches you don't want to give, but I do want to acknowledge what we've been doing behind the scenes over the last few months. The people that have been helping, directing, for the use of a better word, but actually supporting what myself and the Avengers do. And I also got, this is a yin and the yang video, because in true nature, I can't sit here and praise one individual for doing exactly what most investigative journalists should do, and then sit here and look at some other journalists and what they've done in the last 24 hours and not see, not a parallel, but a striking difference on journalism. Now, when I went to America to continue my investigation on Goliath Ventures, I reached out to CoffeeZilla and I said, I'm on the bones of my ass, mate. I can't even tell you how I got to America. And I wasn't funded by someone, which a lot of people accuse me of. But I was over in America and literally had a short opportunity to do something amazing. And you will probably hear about it later on. But there's still a lot of stuff I can't talk about. So I reached out to Coffee and said, look, I've got no money, but I'm in America. And if you want, I could make it happen. I can free up some time. I can extend my journey back home and we could meet. And he said, not a problem. He said, I'll organise accommodation and I'll organise a flight. Now, I was in America undercover because people were trying to, well, it was dangerous. And the very last place I should have actually gone would be America right now. I had a lawsuit pending from Goliath Ventures threatening me, and if anyone knew that I was in America. So I got myself a letter, got myself into America, and I'm at customs. And here I am holding my, well, I'm not holding my letter. I've got my letter just in case they want to know why I'm here. And I was going to hand it to the border police and explain why I'm over here as an investigative journalist and what I'm doing and what I'm investigating. Because I don't know about you, but a New Zealander, the bottom of the planet, going all the way to America, investigating a scam that I believed at the time was, and I still do believe, is between 3 and 500 million. Anyway, so I'm in there, and when you get into the airport, there's 80% of the airport seems like it's ready for international travelers.
New donation from G.
Thank you very much, G. But 80% of people, well, not 80%, everyone was just doing domestic travel, which what we call that in New Zealand. Anyway, there was 3 of us going through international travel, and here I am talking to the customs guy, and he said, what do you do? I said, I'm a YouTuber. They've already got my socials and everything. He goes, oh, what's your YouTube channel about? I said, well, I investigate people running online scams. He goes, oh, really? And I go, yeah. And he goes, cool. Oh, I might subscribe to your YouTube channel. Have a good stay and let me in. I thought, oh, that was great. So that wasn't so bad. But here I am. I'm actually in DC, and then I spent some time there.
New donation from Jewel Homan.
Thank you, Jewel. There's a reason why I'm getting these donations, and I'll explain it in a wee while. And then I traveled to Florida and I went to Orlando, and my mission was to meet up with a few people who, not just victims, but also people that were Avengers. And it was 10 days of full on everything. Now I have got a video. It's only had 500 or 600 views, but I did document my journey the bits I could document, and I wanted to share them with people. But I do remember coming home, and my family were meeting me at the airport to pick me up, and I walked through the international through the they were waiting for me, and I just, right at that moment, it hit me what I've just been doing. In investigative journalism, I feel for people who used to do this years ago before everything got suppressed, before you couldn't actually say what you wanted to say and you had to be PC. And we've just watched Christopher Delgado, the scammer that we've taken off the streets, who's now living in an $8.5 million mansion with, I think it's a Lamborghini Hurricane parked in the garage, actually be interviewed by Channel 9 News. And they wanted to hear his story. Now, they've just pushed to the side all the victims that have lost their life savings and thought it would be a good idea to give airtime to Christopher Delgado. And I did a video about it yesterday about the promo for the 5-minute clip they've done on it. And they've done it because they want to expose him. Now, I haven't actually watched that video yet, the actual version. I just watched them doing the intro.
New donation from someone.
Thank you very much, someone. And I'm just disgusted in it. And, you know, like this man here is my hero. When I started my YouTube channel 5-6 years ago, it wasn't to really do scams. It was to do workshops. And I was trying to, my business fell over with COVID. And I used to own a business networking company, and I had 140 people in my networking company, and they all used to pay me $59 a month to be a member. And I used to work my butt off, you know, running meetings in the morning, face-to-face meetings. But when COVID happened, I tried to move it all into Zoom. And I remember my biggest meeting, I think I had 60 people who managed to figure out how to use Zoom. And I watched everyone doing their business while they were trying to listen to me. My job is engagement, and I'm a public speaker. And keeping engagement was everything. And I was really good at it. And I still am, I think. But when you've got a Zoom meeting with 60 people in it and they're busy doing everything else and listening in, I can't get their attention. And I had this box to work in. So I've finished up. My business networking company fell over. And I do drop shipping. That's how I support myself. And then I thought I'll be a podcaster. And then I also thought I'd do online workshops. And, you know, you watch all those videos of everyone telling you how to set up your online workshops and you do a course. I thought, oh, well, there must be money in doing that. I did sell a few courses, but nothing really. But if you do want to learn how to become a podcaster or a YouTuber, I do have courses that you can now get for $1 a month on my YouTube channel if you want to subscribe. Anyway, now I'm a YouTuber. And a friend rang me up and said to me, I see that you're on the front page of the local news, which I've had to remove lately because it exposes some things about me, as you do in this game that I'm doing at the moment. And he used to come along to my business networking, and he said to me, I saw you on the front page of the newspaper struggling to find a place to rent. And he said, if you come with me to an event on Wednesday, I can show you something that if you invested in it, you would afford to be able to buy your own home. And it's right up your alley, he said. I haven't heard from Ken Berryman for 4 years. His wife, Shirley Berryman, actually used to come to my business networking. And Ken used to come along as well, but because his wife was a member, he thought he could come along free. And they lived in a pretty big house. They moved to a smaller house, but it was a very flash house. You know, they went over budget by $150,000 when they were doing their kitchen and things like that. And they were lovely people. But I hadn't heard from him for 4 years. And then all of a sudden he rings me up and says he wants to take me along to an event where that if I invest some money, I was going to have enough money to buy a house. So I said, what is it, Kent? What's the name of it? He said, oh, no, I'm not going to tell you because if I tell you, you won't come. I said, well, I'm not coming But what's the name of it? So it was Hyperverse. So here I am thinking, I've got a microphone, I've got lights that used to shine into my eyes. Now I've got this lovely big lantern light in front of my head that you can't see. And I did my first video about Hyperverse. And I got like all the videos I've done about workshops, no real views. And all of a sudden I did a video and it had 5,000 views. And I thought, oh my goodness, that's amazing. And a lot of people inspired me along the way when I started doing YouTube videos, like Pierogi. I always wanted, he's never contacted me. Jim Browning has contacted me. He said I'd be invited to the People's Call Centre next year, which was nice. But, you know, they don't correspond with me all the time. And there's a few other ones like Trilogy Media. They're really cool. They do some cool stuff, but they're all sort of doing their own thing and they don't network. And I'm a business
New
networker.
donation from someone.
Thank you, somebody. And long story short is a lot of YouTubers don't network.
New donation from someone.
Stop it, somebody. But the thing is, some people do and some people don't. Now, Queen of Karma, she's a small YouTuber, you know, 8,000 subscribers. She spends her life on the exposing multi-level marketing and cults. And she will jump on the stage and join in and help me out. She will share videos. We will do collaborations now. We've figured out how to do. And that's really hard. I've got a lot of people. So what I really want to do is build up an Avenger network where we've got people that will help us fight these scammers. And I think we're doing the right thing. One guy that really stood out to me is always CoffeeZilla. He's the top dude. He's friggin' amazing. I've invited him to come on here. He may not be able to, but I know his circumstances as well. You know, when he didn't just pay for me to go visit him when I was in America and pay for my accommodation, my food and everything. He actually even paid for my car expenses and all that. He let me into his house, into the $10 million studio, and we had lunch together. We went for a walk together, and we had a common interest. I said to Stephen, I said, you know, this is a hard job. And I said, it's funny that we get a category on YouTube as entertainment. And we had a real bond because we don't want you guys to get scammed. And we don't want to be at the bottom of the cliff helping people. We want to be at the top, stopping people from jumping over the cliff because a friend or a family member told them to do so. And we had a real common interest. So we spent the day together. He interviewed me, and it was one of the biggest highlights of my YouTube career to sit there with a hero. And I said to Stephen, I said, you are my hero. You've always been the guy I want to be. Humble guy, humble house, you know, nothing over the top, no Lamborghini parked in the garage or, you know, just the good stuff good people have in their house, the normal people. And that was Coffee. And he was embarrassed when I said, you've always been my hero. I don't know whether he believed what I said or not, but he always has been. Every time I watch a video, I sit there with excitement. I have a smile on my face, and I'm looking at this cool studio thinking, this is really cool. But I don't see somebody who's showing off. I don't see somebody who wants to produce sensationalism. I just see a transparent guy that wants to get through to people that there's not so nice people on the planet. And we can do something about it. And then if I go to this here, this is the news. Now, I rang up Sharon Butler from Channel 9 News.
New donation from Magooty.
And I had, I don't know if that's going to stay there, probably not. I had a big conversation with her about 45 minutes. And she was going, ooh, ooh, ooh. And they never, ever reported anything until the court documents actually were coming out. So they were like reporting from the bottom of the cliff. Coffee had got way into this by this time. He was in deep with his investigation, but there was lots of red flags and dangers that he was considering. Should I do this or should I not? You know, like, and then we got Chris charged for running a $328 million Ponzi scheme. And I'm sitting there 2 days after I got back to New Zealand where I live. And he rang me up and he goes, what do you think? I said, I just can't process it. I can't imagine, this. And he hasn't been indicted yet. But then I'm going to go back to this. I don't want to focus on negative, but Channel 9 News interviewed Christopher Delgado. I haven't even watched this yet. But they're trying to paint him into a failed businessman rather than a guy that's just committed fraud. And I don't understand. And they said that he needs to be held accountable. And putting this guy in front of a camera while we're showing off boxes of Louis Vuitton things. We've got lots of assets inside the house. He's still got a car parked in the garage that most people would dream of owning. He's stolen all the money. And yesterday I did a video about how they were claiming his business. He never wanted his business to become a Ponzi scheme. And they could have asked real investigative journalist questions. For example, how did your business generate money, Chris? Because he's never generated any income from the investments. Never. He's not doing liquidity pool trading. He's not doing water-cooled mining that he had advertised on his website. But he never intended his business to become a Ponzi scheme. And they let him say that and didn't ask him the hard questions. I can tell you now that CoffeeZilla and myself would love to interview Chris. And would you believe my true style? I've actually reached out to Chris. And I said to him that I would love to have a face-to-face meeting with Christopher Delgado because I will ask you the hard questions. I will ask you, how do you sleep at night knowing you have defrauded people out of their life savings? Why did you go after people's 401ks? Why? Why did you think you had a right to blow all their money on alcohol? We heard he spent over $100,000 one night on alcohol at a bar. And then in this reporting thing that they did, they said that Christopher when he heard that the feds were coming after him, he rushed over to Dubai with his 18 Rolex watches and I heard that he had 2 sports cars worth $850,000, and I know he had a black Ferrari and two houses, one penthouse apparently worth $20 million. I don't know if I can verify that, but you get the idea. And he rushed over to Dubai where he doesn't live. He lives in America, so he rushes over to Dubai to see if he can save his company. Save his company from what? All they could do. And then this interview they did with him gets even worse. Because they tell you that he's now dobbed in all the co-conspirators. So anybody that was helping him and taking large amount of money out of it, he's now going to dob them all in. Last week, Christopher had a party in his house. I've got the videos. I've got the videos of Christopher having a party in his house with an ankle bracelet on. He's sitting there smoking his, peace pipe thing that you get when you're in Egypt. Been there, done that. Faluka, is it? Faluka, something. And he's on it looks like, he's on a cycle machine. He's got girls walking around with hardly no clothes on. He looks like he's having a real bad time. So what did I do with that? I sent all those videos off to Homeland Security, and they can't reply to me now because anything I send them apparently could be used in discovery. And they're not very happy about that because they don't want anything to be jeopardized. So Christopher is now Christopher's making claims to all these people that are in the parties that he's 100% innocent. And he didn't do anything wrong. You got Nick Petrillo, who lives in an $8.5 million house. He's got a $5 million mortgage. How do I know that? Because my team of investigators are better than anybody else on the planet. When we investigate people, we do things properly. Wife, having his third, I think, congratulations, Nick. Your wife's just had your third
New
child.
donation from Marco.
Thank you, Marco. So, Nick Petrillo has a mistress, or had a mistress, for 3 years, and his wife's just given birth to his third son. He recruited 900 people into Goliath Ventures. Why hasn't anyone charged him yet? Because it takes time. It takes time for the government to do stuff. I've had meetings with the CFTC. I've corresponded with the IRS, the FBI, and of course Homeland Security. I instigated the investigation with Homeland Security. I spoke to the guy that headed the investigation. He rang me up. It was on the 1st of September. 2 days later, we produced our first blog and video, which is great. When Christopher was, we found out that Christopher had been charged, I sent the PDF document to Homeland Security. They rang me up and they said, I've been investigating scams like this for 20 years. I've never seen a case move so fast. I heard through other people that it got too big for Homeland Security and they had to get all these other departments in there. There was Microsoft team meetings where there would be 14 different government departments, well, 14 people from government departments of different types.
New donation from Chaparro.
Chaparro, thank you very much. And they would actually they would be inviting, unfortunately, victims into the meeting, and it would be like asking them questions to know where the money moved, how they deposited the money, and it would be kind of like a team investigation all live, and people would be popping into the meetings and out of the meetings, and it was just like a big thing. Anyway, so John, well done, John, you're amazing. John said to me that in his 20 years of going after scammers, he said they have never seen anyone being charged formally within a short period of time, and that was 6 months. Now, I've done other work before with Hyperverse. I've been in meetings with the IRS, and they were trying to get evidence on Bitcoin Rodney at the time, and they finished up doing him for drug trafficking because it was easier, even though they had drug trafficking, money laundering, and then promoting unsecured securities as the third backup. And apparently, they didn't have any videos of him doing it. And I said that to my Avengers, and I said, we've got no videos of Bitcoin Rodney actually saying that he was promoting Hyperverse. And they said, we'll find it. We found some information. We told them we had it. And then we had a movie review of Bitcoin Rodney, Rodney Broughton, I think his name is, actually out there promoting Hyperverse, along with other people that we're still monitoring today. So then we started collecting like databases of all these people that we see. And to date, we have a database of over 1,000 persons of interest that we see promoting these Ponzi schemes and scams. And they all overlap. And now we're starting to realize the value of our database and the people and the difference that we can actually make. So I'm really keen to keep this crusade going. But what I'm really trying to do now is build up a network of people that want to help fight these scams. I'm not asking you guys to be vigilantes, leave that to the professionals. But we are actually feeding law enforcement information. They may not talk to us. They may not even acknowledge that we exist. But boy, we do. And do we make a difference? Because I remember John from Homeland Security, when I told him, I gave him the files about how Christopher had been charged. He said, there is one question, Danny. And I said, yes. He said, we would really like to know how you received those documents before we did. Can't tell you everything, John. I actually said I could tell him, but I'd have to shoot him. But, so, and a lot of the intel that we get, people can't potentially do as much as we can with it. So I call our type of investigation OSINT investigators. And somebody said you're an OSINT investigator. At the time, I didn't know what it was, but we use open source intelligence. And if you go to the bottom of my blogs, you'll see down here, I often have a disclaimer that really nails that. And it says, this investigation relies on OSINT, and that's open source intelligence, meaning every claim made here is based on publicly available records, archive web pages, corporate filings, domain name data, social media activity, and, of course, open blockchain transactions, crypto G rules. And so we now have Zach helping us out where necessary. Zach XBT. If you search him, he's got 1 million subscribers on X, and he's absolutely amazing at going through the blockchain. So now we can work with other individuals, and we don't want to stop here. We really want to build our criminal investigative team, we've got Ken Gamble in Australia, ex-police officer, who had invited me to go to the, never get the name right, it's called the Global Financial Crime Summit, where 150 delegates from around the world who share common interests, like myself and my team of Avengers, at fighting and exposing anyone running or promoting Ponzi schemes and scams and any other horrible thing. And human trafficking compounds, well, we want to expose those. We don't want people to support these organizations by having a play on these platforms. As enticing as online gambling is, because that's what it is, signing up on a platform, depositing a little bit of money and see whether you can beat the system is selfish. And that's what you're doing. You are actually supporting human trafficking compounds. Now, we've just done a massive
New
investigation.
donation from Manny Mo.
Manny Mo, thank you very much. But we've just had, we've just exposed a big company called BG Wealth Sharing. They claim they had 900 people who were members. We don't believe that's the right number, but they do these big numbers so people think it's a massive organization because everyone else is doing it. Everyone else will participate. Everyone's had their money frozen. And now they've come out with an exit strategy where they're telling people to top up their accounts that have been frozen with real money. And obviously some people will get paid. And everyone goes, oh, so if you give them more money, you can get your money out. So they pay a few influencers, and these influencers, oh, I got paid. And then all the peasants lose all their money. And then here we are getting all these emails all day long about people telling us that they thought it was real and genuine and they wished they listened to our content. I want you to listen to our content because I'm at the top of the cliff. It's the oxymoron, what I'm going to say next. But I'm also in the trenches, which is underneath the cliff, you think, wouldn't you? Yeah, but we're in the trenches with the bad guys. We're going head to head. We're chasing them down. It's scary stuff. I mean, Goliath Ventures had already offered me $150,000 on 3 conditions. I would have to write a I got it wrong story. I would have to let them know who they thought was funding me. Obviously have to delete all my videos, and they would give me $150,000. And they put this in writing, the idiots. And how they framed it was lovely, because some anonymous person was a great friend of mine, and they said Danny's on the fence whether he should or shouldn't be doing this. And if I speak to him, I'm pretty sure I can convince him to take down his videos. But this person was offering them wanted them to pay $50,000 up front and another $100,000 once Danny took down all his videos. So they showed me the correspondence and then said, and we've got this all documented, and then they said, but we're not against, a plea deal of some sort, because it's going to cost us a lot of money to get you off the internet. So it would be just more convenient for us to give you $150,000 and you just do it rather than us go through a court case. So we said, bring it on. It's not my first time that I've been in the courtroom. Last scammer was trying to get $3.5 million from me for defamation. Finished up spending $33,600 defending myself in the New Zealand High Court. And the scammer filed a discontinuance an hour and a half before the High Court actually opened up the document. But I went along to the High Court proceedings anyway. I had myself some flashy lawyers who were absolutely the best in New Zealand at $800 an hour. They were working on legal aid.
New donation from someone.
Someone, thank you very much. They were working on legal aid at $200 an hour because they were passionate about fighting scams. And they defended me beautifully. And then the judge, 2 months later, awarded me $25,500 worth of my legal fees and demanded that the scammer in America paid those, which he never did. We never thought he would. And then I had a deficit of about $8,500 to pay. And then my lawyer said, well, we'll go back to legal aid and see if we can narrow that down to $5,000. So now I'm paying $15 a week to pay back my first lawsuit. So since then, my last lawsuit, my lawyer said I had a conflict of interest. So they couldn't use the same lawyers. So I said, I'm going to defend myself. And I won. And then Christopher's team tried to do another lawsuit. And I thought, I'm going to defend myself. And we won that too. And every time, and now I've got a big hotshot lawyer that might be going after these lawyers that filed all that lovely paperwork. And that might work out in my favor. But at the end of the day, it is a battlefield. Back to CoffeeZilla, because this video is all about CoffeeZilla and wondering why I'm getting all these donations coming up on the screen. Because at that time, I reached out to CoffeeZilla for the first time. And I said, help.
New donation from someone.
Thank you, someone. So Coffee says to me, you got to pick your battles, who you go after. And he goes after the big fish.
New donation from CR4
New
Task
donation
1C.
from
CR4 Task 1C.
Thank you very much for the donations. So CoffeeZilla rang me up.
New donation from someone.
I might turn this off in a minute. It's very distracting. It's a good distraction. So when CoffeeZilla rang me up, we talked for 30 minutes, and he was just offering some good sound advice how to handle myself when I was getting sued for $3.8 million by this American scammer. And we don't talk back and forth every day. We don't talk back and forth every year. Dribble drabs. But when I started doing Goliath Ventures, I reached out to him, and we started having a bit of a banter back and forth. He had already been investigating some of the people. There's another investigation coming out because the Onyx Reserve. Now, I've got to do this, Coffee. I really want to do this. Now, I have everything bookmarked, right? So you come down to my bookmarks, you go down to Avengers, and the top one there at the moment is CoffeeZilla. You go to CoffeeZilla, and you go to, and I'm going to subscribe to CoffeeZilla for the rest of my life, as long as I can afford it. You go to Patreon, and in Patreon, Coffee releases his videos. And the real cool thing about Patreon is you get a sneak preview. So this was the video that we're about to watch together of Coffee and myself interview, the whole 9 yards, everything. And I've noticed with the new version that we're about to watch with me, if you don't mind to come to the movies, get some popcorn, he talks about another investigation that he's going to do. So yesterday I come here and I saw that this video had been dropped, and it was about Eric, I've forgotten your stupid name, Eric McNeil. And that is the Onyx Reserve. And there's an amazing thing. When we were investigating Goliath Ventures, we noticed there's some other people involved, and Matt Burks is a guy that needs to go to jail. Actually, I won't do jail noises, but we do have prisons available, and we can actually do that. So let's just do that for a bit of fun. So,
new donation from supporter.
Oops. So we've got jail here. Where's jail? Let's go jail, right? So we can put people in jail. I think I just put CoffeeZilla in jail. So don't do that, Danny. But anyway, I'll fade that out. Matt Burks was a big part of Goliath Ventures. This guy, Eric McNeil, we noticed that he had a pitch deck, and it had Matt Burks' photo on it. And Matt Burks was the operations manager. We looked at that and we thought, that's not right. So I did a video about it. Next minute, I get this email, all in bright red writing, obviously in a panic. And Eric's trying to say that they've got nothing to do with Goliath Ventures. And I wrote back and said, well, what about Matt Burks? He's like just done the audit and all this sort of stuff. So we knew there was a connection there. Coffee was already, it's a long story, but you have to watch the video, but he was investigating Eric, and they basically dropped it. But when we come along with Goliath Ventures, it just worked out that he could pick up the story again and expose this guy. And it's brilliant. And I'm looking at this going, wow, we helped with that investigation. And I'm even in that video as well. And we're not doing this because I want to be on the videos. I want to do this because I want to make a difference. But boy, these guys go along and take millions of dollars off people. I don't know if they sleep at night, but Coffee exposes that. And it's brilliant. It's right on par. So do subscribe to CoffeeZilla's Patreon account. And I'm going to put the link in the chat room because it's only $5 a month. Which is fantastic, but you'll get a sneak preview of that video. And I don't know if I can show a clip of it with just me in it, but you'll just have to believe me because it's a clip out of the other one. But what I'm getting at is where these videos are put down there, they're kind of a wee bit raw, meaning they haven't been refined. And then now I see the new video, which is absolutely really cool. So what I'm getting at is I'll give you an oxymoron here. This is a true journalist who reports the truth. It's not sensationalism.
New Ko-fi subscription from Tristan.
Oh, Tristan, thank you very much. Thank you for subscribing. That's really nice per month. I think I have different accounts there as well. You guys can figure that out, and I'll show you that in a second. But my point is, This is true journalism, not sensationalism. We're under the category of entertainment. But I don't believe there's anything as real journalism anymore. Because when I was in Orlando, I finished up getting recorded on camera with Fox 35 News by a nice guy that actually listened to me, who said he'd heard a little bit about Goliath. And he was nice. He even gave me some advice on my T-shirts, how I should wear polo shirts rather than these sort of T-shirts. I'm not knocking him, but he put me on camera for an hour and a half, or an hour. They recorded me, asked me all the questions. I told them the whole story and everything I did. And then they just did nothing with the footage. Nothing. Nothing. But they reported all the documents that I could have read that were delivered from the courtroom. Another guy, what's his name? Gary Fox from NBC News. He interviewed me for a while and took a whole lot of notes, went away and did his investigation. And when Christopher was coming out of the courtroom the first time, that journalist, I'm pretty sure that was Gary Fox. So I met him face to face. I had to look through the, I don't know how to say it. I had to look through, actually, what I'm going to do, I'm just going to go here. If you come down here, you can actually see in the blog that I'm going to put in the chat room. Sorry, I'm ignoring everyone in the chat room. Nice to have you here.
New donation from someone.
Hello, thank you, someone. So this is the link to the blog that we're looking at here. And in here, you can actually see my whole trip to America, the American mission, I call it. And obviously, we've got CoffeeZilla over here. And I'm going to go through this blog if we have enough time at the end. But my point is, none of them published anything that wasn't able to be found. There was no investigative journalism from my perspective. They just used regurgitated court documents and did articles about it. So if you come along to, I'm just going to see if I can actually do this, Goliath Ventures. Yep. So if you go along and you search for Goliath Ventures Inc.
New donation from someone.
Thank you, somebody. And you go to the map, is not where I wanted to go. If you go to news, you can see, all the articles are coming out now. But if you read the articles, unfortunately, you'll find that they're just, so this is a good example here, actually. If I come here, so this is Chris coming to the, so just bear in mind, the guy that busted the case, well, the guy that got the investigation going, was standing right in front of them, and they basically didn't even acknowledge that, like, this is a real David and Goliath story. Who the hell am I? And all of a sudden I managed to provide enough evidence to get investigators investigating Christopher, even though lots of other people have done it. And all they could do was report silly stuff. What's this?
People. And as West Shoe's investigative reporter Greg Fox
New
explains,
donation
the
from
case
Thank
is
You.
so massive, prosecutors need.
Yeah, Greg Fox. So I met Greg Fox, and this is
And
Greg
the money.
Fox.
How can somebody just look somebody dead in the eyes and just lie?
This man, who doesn't want to be identified, filed a police report claiming.
So I'm just going to go back here because I think this is, I can't knock these journalists, but I am knocking these journalists. This guy here, I showed him 3 civil court cases. I showed him a court case where Nick Petrillo was trying to sue Christopher Delgado for $40 million because Chris hasn't paid him the rewards he was getting for throwing people over the cliff, getting investors over. And Nick Petrillo had 900 people underneath him. So I showed the guy that's not blurred out 3 civil court cases. And he just said, oh, that's civil court cases. They're not really going to do anything. We need federal cases. And then when I'm in America, in a very nice hotel, thank you very much, one of my Avengers paid for that hotel. Thank you. That's why I say thank you very much. And a federal case was launched. And would you believe, Vince, I can't even say his name, actually messaged me before, and it said, do I correctly assume you have seen the local news interview of Chris Delgado? Whether he approves or not, they are shocked that Chris got airtime. I know that I've been corresponding with that. There's the guy who's on my signal was the guy that filed the first federal case. And that was just before I left America. 2 days after he filed the federal case, America thought we better do something and charged Christopher for running a $328 million Ponzi scheme. So, that's brilliant. So these are the connections I've got where I can actually find out what's happening sometimes.
New donation from Anonymous.
Anonymous, thank you very much. Wonder why it comes up saying somebody sometimes, because anonymous and somebody is quite different. Yeah. Anyway, so now I've got to the studio. When you're a Kiwi and you get an Uber and it costs you $60 to get there, and the guy doesn't want to even interview you, and you tell him you're from New Zealand, and then they're not interested in court documents that I showed them, and then they want federal stuff. Then they do get federal stuff, and now if you watch this, you actually see them doing some news. But I would be thinking,
and others who worked with him,
that they might have mentioned that a independent journalist from New Zealand come to help us with the investigation, and they wouldn't have to name me, but I think it would add a lot of interesting bits to the story. But saying that somebody knocked on their door and said, "Hey, do you know that you've got somebody here running a $328 million scam?" I can tell you, here at the time, I think I had maybe 200 persons of interest that had invested, who I've got their, some of them at the time I even had their contracts. And I said, you can have access to this database and you can use all these documents and interview people and blah, blah, blah. But no, he basically got a federal document from the courts and did a report on it. Maybe they want to interview me now. I don't know, but I just think, what happened to good old-fashioned journalism?
Yeah. Delgado founded a so-called crypto investment company called Goliath Ventures. He also ran unsuccessfully in 2022 for Orange County Commission.
Seat's too tight there, Chris, and now he's got an ankle bracelet on. But and he drives away in a Rolls Royce. I mean, everybody went on about the Rolls Royce. Hey, good on you, Greg Fox, for reporting the news. I understand that you may be restricted on what you can and can't say, or even who you reference in your interviewing. But my point is not to knock Greg Fox, because he was a nice man, he was a busy man, and he took time out of his day. I had to convince him to have a talk with me. But at the end of the day, I think independent journalism is where it's at. Real journalism on what you see on TV just doesn't really happen, in my opinion. And also
New donation from Chris.
Chris, thank you very much. And this interview that we'll watch later on, well, it's 5 minutes long, so I'm just going to let's have a listen to see what their interpretation it's all
Channel
about.
9 anchor and investigative reporter Darlene Jones joins us live right now with more of her exclusive reporting. Darlene.
Martha and Greg, right now, Christopher Delgado is the only person facing a criminal complaint, and that is part of the reason he agreed to speak with me without even telling his attorneys. He told me he knows he is going to prison for a long time, but he may not be alone.
So let me get this right, Chris, because you're watching this. Chris has had me on the big screen while he's having lavish parties, by the way. So Christopher is jealous that he's the only person getting done for running Goliath Ventures. He's also the only signatory on the Goliath Ventures bank accounts, would you believe? And also we know all about his bank accounts because our team of Avengers actually managed to notify Bank of America, and they froze their bank account once they started investigating it through our evidence. In fact, they even looked at my blogs and used that to get the story. How about that? But now Christopher's jealous, so he's decided to dob all his friends in. Wonder who he's left off the list, because we've got the list. We've got actually 27 co-conspirators. And I'm wondering why, first of all, I'm wondering why these people that run these stories, Darlene Jones, hasn't, she knows about me because I know my name's been mentioned in her conversations. But why doesn't Darlene Jones ring me up and at least
New
verify?
donation from Wade.
Hey, Wade. Thank you, Wade. Why doesn't she verify some of the information and intel that we have? I have 330 people of persons of interest that have either invested, and that's not including my whistleblowers. And why are they scared about talking to me? I literally get emails. I got an email just yesterday, another one from the IRS, telling me they want to work with us to do investigations. Why doesn't the media work with an independent journalist and ask them to verify, we could tell them a much better story than this. I mean, I haven't even seen this. I have not watched this. You're going to see this raw.
We have confirmed federal investigators have issued subpoenas of others with the company, and that could lead to other criminal complaints.
Ooh.
Investors tonight simply want to know if they'll ever get their money back.
Oh my God. So they've talked to the investors, have they? That's a load of rubbish. The investors don't want to talk. They don't want to talk to anybody. They want to come on camera. They want to keep it quiet. Because they're all professionals. I've gone after all these professionals. But anyway, okay, I have to keep doing this because
a lot of you guys.
It keeps disappearing. I think I might have just gone back to the start now. I might just try something different here. I'll just see if I can lift this up. No, that's not going to work. Okay, you might just have to put up with that. All right, so hopefully you don't have to start again.
Inside of his $8 million Isleworth mansion, Christopher Delgado wears an ankle monitor right next to his Hermes sandals that retail for about $1,000. He's surrounded by luxury clothes, cars, and comfort.
This is an actual one of 2 Louis Vuitton pool tables.
What the hell? What the hell are we showing? A lavish gift bought by investors? Investors, 2,000 investors. We counted up to 1,500, so we're going to have a guess and say 2,000 investors have paid for his one of 2 Louis Vuitton pool tables. This is news? Is this what you call news? A pool table? Lavish table that probably cost $500,000? I don't know. Can't afford one of those. And you want to put this on the news? Are we showing the wealth that he had? Why don't we investigate how he claimed he generated the money? Because this was a straight Ponzi scheme. He never made any money from liquidity pools or anything. This is just bad journalism. I'm not happy.
Prosecutors allege Delgado paid for this lifestyle with money from investors who thought his company, Goliath Ventures, was earning them quick and large monthly returns.
Those screenshots there, do you know where they come from? I got those. That's actually Mike, I've forgotten your name, Krasinski. These screenshots are actually, they must have got them from from other people that have been sharing me intel. That's friggin' hilarious.
Returns from 3 to 8%. They each had to invest at least $100,000. Delgado.
Well, they didn't actually, because that was the new rule that Matt Burke introduced. Originally, you could actually invest 30, 20, 40, 50. They'll take money from anybody. But when they were trying to become accredited, they were trying to become legal, they told everyone that you had to only
New
take
donation
investments.
from Ori Oswald.
Ori Oswald, thank you very much. They had to only take money from accredited investors, which means that then the minimum investment became $100,000. And everyone else that had only invested like $50,000 or $30,000 was squeezed to actually top it up to 100. Otherwise, they weren't allowed to be investors. But then they said, but come and see me, we'll work out something. And you weren't allowed to pull money together from other people. That was shady. But we got a video that showed every part of the scummy, whatever things they were doing. Let's carry on.
Delgado told prosecutors some poured in millions.
What happened to their money that should have been sitting in an account?
Their money was being used to make distributions.
To who?
To either them or other investors.
And what?
Them or other investors. That means the people that are promoting it, the co-conspirators, were getting paid the money that was getting divvied up. When everyone thought they was investing at what? Investing in a liquidity pool. Bitcoin technologies, whatever that is, and Bitcoin mining. That's what they were told, but they were divvying the money up and they weren't doing anything with the money. This, it's just absolutely disgusting. And something else came in my mind right then when he was talking, but it will come back.
What else did you use the money for?
I mean,
Come on.
we used it for corporate events. We used it for personal spend.
The Securities and Exchange Commission has strict regulations.
So breach of bail comes to mind because if you go through his bail conditions, I'm pretty sure he wasn't allowed to speak to anybody that was a co-conspirator within his networks. So I reckon if he's talking to a reporter and he's trying to send signals out, I don't know. But I bet you if you read his bail conditions that he's breached them with this somehow. I haven't read the bail conditions, but anybody that's got him, technically speaking, he should be going to jail today. Because if he's out there doing this shit and talking about what's happening, what do you think is going to happen, everybody? So he's just told all the co-conspirators that he's been speaking to the FBI and he's handing them over to the FBI and telling them everything. Okay, I think everyone's going to be running to Dubai now. Thanks, Chris. And any of the co-conspirators that we've been talking about, we know that they've got assets that can be frozen. Lamborghinis, Ferraris, whatever, houses, jewelry. Tomo comes to mind. Tomo, who's been spending more money opening up clinics than he's actually been bringing in the front door of his existing business. Steve Davis, who's we did a blog about him and a video about him and his Press Choice book publishing company. So what, you know what I'm getting at? It's like, isn't this a breach of bail? Somebody out there who should read the bail conditions should know. And if this is a breach of bail by giving tips to people that have got the money, then why is he allowed to stay in an $8.5 million mansion that he hasn't bought with his own money? Why isn't he put into a cell?
For managing an investment fund. WhatsApp messages we obtained show someone Delgado communicated with, raising concerns about the SEC and U.S. laws dating back to 2023.
Did you have a license to manage it? Like, how was the...
I mean, we've always sought counsel. And we were told, you know, this is friends and family.
It grew to other people, some investing their pensions and others retirement accounts. Delgado says early investor money did go into a cryptocurrency fund in Dubai, but it grew too quickly and ended up frozen. Goliath
rubbish.
could see the money, but couldn't move it.
Oh,
We had
God.
so much inflow coming in.
Oh my God. I mean, they had $19,000 in liquidity pools. $19,000. You're going to find out. CoffeeZilla mentioned that. $19,000. You know, we've got bank receipts and Coinbase receipts for $328 million. So technically speaking, it's a $328 million Ponzi scheme. However, they left a trail of debt as well. I know an airline had $723,000 owing, and there's a lot of people out there owing at the moment. So there's more money than $328 million gone AWOL. And this is just him trying to keep face. He's probably an innocent man going to jail. Let's just send him to jail anyway, just to be sure.
And we knew that we had the cash to cover. And we knew once our product launched that we could have right or wrong and no one would ever know.
Oh, that's great. That's great. So let me get this right. I've got a concept. I've got a theory. I've been involved
New
in two
donation
other...
from A.
Hey, thank you very much. So I've been involved with two other scams previously, my liquidity partners and Traders Domain, and I think there was another one in there too, which I seed something or other. And all of a sudden,
New donation from Bottled Walter.
bottled water, love it. Thank you very much for the donations. I really do appreciate them. I mean that sincerely. What I'm getting at, guys, is this guy has basically come up with an idea, got funding, now given money out to a whole lot of charities, got notoriety, and also drove flash cars. He's got involved in all the communities. He gave the money away to charities so he could get into those charities. And like Rolex watches. This guy's got 18 Rolex watches. We believe he's got 50 to 100 Rolex watches. So we've been told by our sources, but we can't verify that. You know what he did? He bought the database from the Rolex people so he could sell them and get them involved in Goliath Ventures. You know, this guy is a criminal, and here he is on what I call bad journalism, giving him a voice, trying to act sympathetic about every single night. Like Jason Derulo played at his the Christmas do that they had. They hadn't paid investors for 2.5 months, held a $5 million, what seemed like a $5 million, and it was, lavish Christmas event. Jason Derulo come along and sung. The night before that, which people don't know, because we know stuff, he went to a private party of his. He had a seat where he was basically on stage with Jason Derulo, which they said would cost maybe $30,000. And then while he was, he went to Thailand to the Electrical Festival, and we had insiders there telling us that the corporate seat that he had, it was a package, and it was like $150,000. So even though the company was failing, he was blowing money left, right, and center right up to the end, and spending $150 on a 4-day excursion to Thailand. I mean, this guy is the bottom feeder. And here he is trying to be empathetic. I was trying to get things going. I had a theory about a business that I could have got off the ground, but I just so happened to start getting investors throwing money at me. I mean, their first investment was around about 700,000, I believe. And once he got a taste of that money, he probably thought, let's get some more of that.
The very definition of what you just described is a Ponzi scheme.
But I also think a Ponzi scheme has intent.
Oh my God. Now, I like to read body language. When he said that, he went like this. I also think that a Ponzi scheme has intent. What the hell? This video, the reason why the Channel 9 decided to put this video, they wanted accountability. So, okay.
Knowingly raising money, knowingly building it as a fraud. That's what everyone's missing here. I didn't build Goliath to be a Ponzi scheme.
Delgado tells.
Well, what was it? This is what I said yesterday. What were you building, and what was the income stream that you had to merit taking people's money? Hey, if you want some memorabilia, there's a guy that bought a container load of memorabilia with Goliath's name on it, and he was the last person to get scammed. And we've had him on the show before. But if you guys think it would be cool to own all the memorabilia with Goliath Ventures names all over it, give me a ring, and I'll put you in touch with the guy that's bought a container load of Chris. We're talking $500,000 worth of merch with Goliath Ventures name on it. He's stuck with it. And his wife wants it out of the lounge and the garage. He's a lovely guy, absolutely amazing guy. But I know a couple of people have actually bought. It's on eBay. And if you ask me, I can actually find the link somewhere. But you can go to eBay and buy Goliath merch. And you can also go to my merch store and buy Goliath exposed merch.
Tells us Goliath was trying to develop its own crypto product that would have taken over as a real investment.
It just kept getting delayed and delayed and delayed. But in these delays, we are now a rocket ship.
And you continue to take investors.
We didn't have any choice.
Why didn't you just say no?
I think it's easy.
I love that. Why didn't you just say no? That's a good question, Darlene. Susie, if it isn't eBay, can you put the link in the chat room? One of my Avengers is awesome. Thank you very much. Hello, Queen of Karma. I just got rid of, what have we got? We're just going to put some of these messages up on the screen. I think we've got them going there. Oop, we're a bit out of size there. Oop, I'm just going to fix up. Excuse me. I've got a terrible cough that won't go. And I think I have asthma problems, apparently. Yeah, we'll just see if we can make that fit. Oh, that's a bit better. And we'll bring you up there. Oops. Just trying to arrange my little boxes that pop up. There we go. Alrighty. Now what do? Yep, we've done it. Yeah, thank you very much. Oops.
New donation from Colonel Crypto Critical.
Colonel Crypto Critical. Love the name, mate. That's friggin' awesome. Oh, that's cool. Thank you very much for the donations. Really do appreciate them. So he's raised a whole lot of money and he was hoping it was going to work out. And he's not a fraudster. Let's give him some airtime. I'm not happy.
For someone to sit on the outside, it's hard to do that in the moment. Yes, the logical answer is just cut our losses, come out, tell our investors.
Yeah, but Chris, this isn't the first scam that you've been part of, is it? My Liquidity Partners. That was a mirror image of what you've done. So it's not your first rodeo, was it? That's why we went after you. This wasn't a mistake. This was meditation. This is premeditated fraud. And he's also lost $1 million, apparently. We don't know how he got the money to Trader's Domain, going by what Coffee's about to tell you.
It's done.
Did you get used to the lifestyle?
I wasn't going to allow this to fail.
Okay. How'd that work out for you, Chris? 8 girlfriends later? He spent $1 million on Tears luxury items in 12 months. And he's bought $4 million worth of vehicles. He moved into an $8.5 million house. We think he owned 4 houses. I think it could even be 5 houses. He was spending the money like it was water, and that doesn't even justify it. Like Niagara Falls, he was spending the money.
New donation from someone.
Thank you, someone. So why is this guy trying to convince people that he was trying hard? to actually get it going for everybody. And he's a good guy, and he just couldn't get it going. Goodness me. Let's all buy Christopher some soap on a rope.
And I knew if we had stopped, not only was I going to fail all our investors, but I was going to be the biggest failure in Orlando.
Well, let's give the reality. He took in more money from investors, and now he's failed, and everyone's lost every dime except the co-conspirators who've been buying assets that can still be seized. Hurry up, law enforcement. And here's Christopher telling you that he did a good thing by stretching it out as long as he could. I mean, what brain cell would hold a $5 million Christmas party after not paying everyone for 2.5 months and make that statement? He thinks he was hoping that he could have traded his way out of something he was doing illegally, committing fraud. You just can't make this shit up. Anyway.
And I wasn't going to let that happen.
These Goliath marketing materials continue luring new investors. Federal investigators say Delgado and his alleged co-conspirators pulled in at least $328 million. Right now, there is a federal order for Delgado to preserve a long list of assets, including high-end cars, jewelry, homes, and other luxury items.
What do you have to give these victims to make them whole or partially whole?
I came to take full responsibility.
Oh, what an idiot. What a piece of shit. This is why I do what I do. This is a bottom feeder. This is a person that shouldn't be on planet Earth. We should send him off to Mars and see whether they'll accept him. This guy with his hands in the fig position, well, not the fig position, in the finger position, saying that I just tried my best to be a businessman and decided to take everyone's life savings. Go, oh my God, it's just unreal.
For my actions, I came to give them the answers they need. And in doing so, I have turned over everything. I notified the DOJ of my international accounts and
international accounts. What about your pool table? What about the sports car? Did you handle those back? Did you go and give your Rolls Royce back before you handed yourself in? What a liar.
surrendered those accounts willingly.
Oh, you're a good boy.
New donation from Jorge.
The records we have also show Goliath Ventures donated about $5.1 million to charity, schools, and foundations across our area. We have confirmed, Martha and Greg, some have actually received subpoenas related to those funds, and the feds, as you can imagine, have a lot of questions.
They may claw back some of that money.
Oh, this guy's good. The Orlando Economic Partnership, who had Christopher's banner on their website right up until the indictment date, were notified on the, I've forgotten the date now, but I think it was the 21st of September by myself.
New donation from.
Exclamation mark. Good one. I like that one. Thank you very much. But we sent off the email to 37 people in the Orlando Economic Partnership Organization.
New donation from someone.
Thank you, somebody. And what do? They Christopher paid $200,000 to have his banner on their website. He didn't want anything else in return, and they decided after they would hand back $190,000 of the money just to make it easier and quicker, and they took that money back. That was a clawback. That did set the precedent for a lot of other charities who do good in the community of Orlando now have to actually fork out money that they used for victims who need it to go back to the estate of Goliath Ventures to pay back the victims. And as she said, 5.1 million isn't really a lot of money when you're talking about 328 million. But Christopher must have been spending $25 to $30 million a year on his lifestyle alone. That is not the type of money you'd be spending if you were trying to get something off the ground. So I'm obviously done something wrong. Let's just make it big. Let's party up every night. And it's absolutely disgusting. So, yeah, just want to
Time will
mention
tell. We'll continue to follow this and see where all of this leads.
But for right now, he stays in the house for right now.
For right now.
Excellent report. Another report Thursday. All right. Good job.
Thanks.
Thank you. Federal investigators say a multi-million-dollar cryptocurrency
Right. Well, I'm absolutely disgusted with that first edition, so you can only get better from there, can't you? Which is terrible. Anyway, what I want to know, are you guys ready for a real investigative journalist story? Because this one is the truth. Every single part of this has been investigated by my team of Avengers. And I've tried to represent our intel as best as I can. And all those donations that you are seeing at the moment is because CoffeeZilla has posted a very generous offer for people who supports me to actually donate to me along the way. So normally I don't get, I've worked on this for, weeks, and I don't get the donations I receive today every day. So I really thank him for telling people about what me and my Avengers have been doing. And it does give me an opportunity where I can actually meet my Avengers, which I'm looking forward to doing. But anyway, this video has been released, I think maybe about 4 weeks ago on Patreon, and I showed you how you can support CoffeeZilla by going along and joining his Patreon. And this is the latest version of the video that was released on today. And before I get carried away, I just want to have a look and tell you how many people have viewed. Oh my goodness. Over 1 million people have viewed this video in the last 12 hours. And, that is amazing. So this video video will actually change already has changed my life. And this is what true journalism is about. And I'm just disgusted with the other journalists. But let's get stuck into it. All right, here we go.
My God-given
New donation
gift
from
was that
Scammers.
people are attracted to me. People just naturally gravitate towards me. My circle of influence started growing so natural.
Today, we're investigating one of the hardest cases of my career, a $300 million private equity company called Goliath Ventures, where the CEO was taking private planes, buying Rolls Royces, expensive mansions, while claiming that the whole thing was audited, backed 115%. They even took retiree money. I mean, what could go wrong? And when I was called to investigate them 6 months ago, I really had no idea what I was stepping into. Little did I know, this would be one of the toughest cases of my career.
I love his introductions. Hope I don't get gun for visual copyright. Fair use.
So the first time I ever heard about Goliath was actually from another journalist.
My name is Danny Dehick, and I've been investigating Goliath Ventures since the 1st of September 2025.
That's
Wow.
Danny. He's a journalist who's been featured by the New York Times, and he told me Goliath was a company that had hundreds of millions of dollars invested, and something just didn't feel right. So my first question to him was, well, who runs this thing?
The man behind it all, Christopher Delgado.
Today's guest is someone real special. My friend, when I heard your story, I just zoned into it. I'm like, I have to have this gentleman on my podcast. Not one person, and I do my research, my team does a lot of research, we call people, and not one individual came back negative.
Wow.
Chris, welcome.
Thank you for having me, KB.
Chris, where you come from?
I'm originally from California. I'm first generation Mexican American. My mom was born in Aguascalientes, Mexico. She came over here in her early teens. We grew up in a trailer park in Fontana, California.
Same story every time, Chris.
I'm just gonna draw a picture for y'all. Go on social media. I follow them very closely. Private jet. You see the celebrities. You see Patrick Bet-David standing next to you at the Yankee Stadium. But you come from a trailer park.
Yeah. It's actually, sometimes I look back at myself. I look at the things that I've been able to do and accomplish and where I'm at in life and who is in my circle and who I can call as friends. And I amaze myself. But I think a lot of that comes with opportunity. I don't think people really understand the amount of risks that I took early on in my life, not only my corporate career, but also even with my current company, and what I was willing to do and what I was willing to lose to get to this part.
Now let's be honest, if you saw that kind of story anywhere but on this channel, you might say Chris represents the American dream. His mom is an immigrant, he came from a trailer park, he took risks, and by his early 30s, he's rich, successful. But when I saw this, the first thing I thought was, well, where's the pitch, right? I mean, just to state the obvious, this whole lifestyle on Instagram thing, the celebrity friendships, the story of overcoming all odds, it's pretty textbook marketing for a pitch, a sale. But with Goliath, it was like the opposite. No matter how much I watched clips of Chris, I just never found the pitch.
Would I be open, just knock on your door, hey Chris, I have some money, can I invest with you?
No.
But so like a private?
Very private.
Interesting.
My money, more of a consulting, even with Goliath.
It's private.
It's private. Even if you knocked on our door.
You're not getting in right away.
Yeah. No, we're a private equity firm.
Ooh,
we
exclusive.
only want to work with certain individuals, and we have a very structured model.
Don't make me cry.
And we don't want to bring people in that want to change that structure. This is the success behind the company. This is how we're willing to operate and play with you with. And if you don't want to adhere by our rules or the structure that has had tremendous success, then you're just not the right partner for us. So
this is a private equity investment company, which means, I've got an investment opportunity. This sounds too good to be true. That is too good to be true. That they kept around the friends and family. They didn't do any public advertising other than Patrick Mendaver's event, I should say.
New donation from Ryan.
For myself,
Thank you, Ryan.
Raise my family, and basically enjoy life.
And that's how all these schemes grow, is word of mouth.
Now, Danny's right here. Goliath was mostly run on word of mouth, and it was tough because of that to find claims early on because this thing was very hush-hush. It wasn't until I found someone who actually was on the inside, an investor, that I learned what this whole thing was about, why people were investing millions of dollars.
I got into Goliath via trust. I've heard a lot of stories of other people getting in from trust as well. And it was like a chain reaction. So I trusted someone who trusted someone who trusted someone that knew the director of partner services there, right? Trust can go a long way. I remember the day that I was told about the investment opportunity, and that was on February 9th, 2024. That was the day I was told about it.
Tell me what the pitch was to you.
These guys within this private joint venture fund, they invest the money into liquidity pools. And I'm not going to tell you that I know I'm an expert in liquidity pools. I kind of knew how it worked. Sure, the returns were crazy, but I thought they were onto something.
And there it is.
New
That's
donation
finally
from someone.
The pitch we were looking for. We discovered that Goliath is a company managing liquidity pools. And this is something I'm deeply familiar with from my past work. Better yet, my source gave me emails, contracts, and I immediately knew Danny was right. Something was wrong. Goliath claimed they were making all these profits from liquidity pools on Uniswap, which based on my experience would generate maybe 4 to 10% a year. Meanwhile, Goliath's contracts with investors said they would be paid 3, 4, 5% a month, and you could take payouts or you could leave it in. You could do something they called hyper compounding. Now, obviously, those numbers don't add up. Goliath would be spending more money than they made. But the problem is Goliath is paying out at this point. And so no one wants it to stop. No one except for Danny, who wouldn't stop digging.
You need to look into my liquidity partners because that's where it all started. It's a mirror image of Goliath Ventures. They registered the domain name for my liquidity partners and Goliath Ventures 20 days apart. I think Chris just copied their concepts.
Well, let's find out. Let's look at their website. It's dead right now, but pulling an old archive, we do see similarities. Liquidity pools run on Uniswap, allowing you to hyper compound. Then I saw this photo from Danny. That's Chris Delgado with Verlin Santiago, the creator of My Liquidity Partners, who allegedly fled to Dubai. Now, to be clear, My Liquidity Partners was found to be a Ponzi scheme. Could it be that Goliath was stealing another person's playbook and operating it as a private equity firm? I mean, it's obviously a big accusation to make. So I started digging through my old Ponzi cases and found another link, Trader's Domain, a Ponzi scheme I investigated years ago. I had all their...
I don't want to break the flow of this, but this is why, we want to work with all investigators because our stories, even though we may be going down a rabbit hole in one area, it's so important. Like Coffee's been going on about traders' domains for years, but I've never researched it myself. But see, the overlapping, these individuals aren't that bigger. The criminal network ain't that large. But the fact is that he connected this to another opportunity is just gold for us because now we realize that we really want to start working with individuals who, go after scammers because we can share intel. Okay, carry on. That's the last time I'm going to interrupt for Will.
Insider emails, and I found within them Chris Delgado. He was emailing as a special investor trying to withdraw $1.3 million from a collapsed scam. And this is when all his old claims about taking risk came back to me.
I don't think people really understand the amount of risks I took early on in my life, not only my corporate career, but also even with my current company, and what I was willing to do and what I was willing to lose to get to this part.
At this point in the investigation, I'm like 99.9% sure this is just a Ponzi
Not the graphics,
worth hundreds of millions of dollars. Chris is already involved with some. The numbers don't make sense. And so I'm thinking, clearly I'm going to make a video, right? But that's when the first lawsuit dropped.
I have been sued in America, and the dumbest thing I could ever do is turn up in America. Hello.
Yeah, but they're going to try to bury you financially.
I'm already buried financially because that's the crazy thing. In the lawsuit, my take on it is they're trying to tell me to back up the bus and scare tactics. Around about early October, Christopher tried to serve me.
So do you realise that those papers are from a company that has stolen $500 million from American investors?
Hey, Danny, I have no idea about that. You might be 100% correct, Danny, but I've got no control over it. Yeah. So I've just got to give them to you.
Yeah.
Well, shit. I got to figure out what I'm going to do next.
He's so good with the storylines. A lawsuit.
I got big problems, Maxwell. I got big problems.
Oh, jeez, Coffee. Don't tell me you brought a lawsuit into my bar.
No, this is... I might get sued. This whole complaint, they sued Danny, and now everybody's freaking out.
Of course they're freaking out. Have you seen this guy's building? Chris has a lot of money.
Well, yeah, obviously, and that's the problem. I can't afford to get sued right now. But what am I supposed to do? This
New donation
this ruins
from someone.
everything.
You could always report it to the government, not release a video.
You don't think that'd work? In this era? The odds are basically zero.
Coffee,
Excuse me.
I don't see how you have any other choice.
Maybe you're right. Maybe
New donation
you're
from someone.
I mean, it's
Thank
worth
you,
a
someone.
shot, right?
Yeah, you betcha.
All right, well, thanks anyways. Later.
Wait, what about your tab? Whoever pays his tab always comes out of my paycheck. Matter of fact, hold on. I'm his sidekick. He should be paying me. Yeah, here we go. Will CoffeeZilla release a video about Goliath Ventures? Not anymore. Big Maxwell bucks, here we come.
So, I don't really know how to say this, but it was at this point I decided to file a whistleblower complaint to the government. Sort of a Hail Mary. I mean, I didn't know what else to do. And yes, I know that's rich coming from the crime is legal guy, right? But what some of you don't know is I've done this several times before. Whenever I have enough evidence, I do feel it's important to not just make a YouTube video about it, but give the evidence to the proper authorities. That is continued even as our regulators have been gutted. Now, normally, I never talk about this activity because, one, a lot of times it goes nowhere, but also it can be sensitive, and so I generally don't talk about it. But in this case, it is essential to understanding what actually happened next, because without that whistleblower complaint, I was ready to give up on this case. I mean, I literally was like, what am I going to do here? I'm going to get sued if I talk about this, and like, what are my other options? But as I started to pull together evidence for this government tip, I got an email archive of Goliath's old newsletters, and I start to see more and more of what they've been telling people, and I'm just like, I can't believe what I'm seeing. I mean, near the top, a financial audit.
They sent out a newsletter saying that they had an independent audit, and the independent audit come back and said 115% of investors' funds were secured for the whole year of 2024.
So to be clear, this is an announcement of an audit sent to investors to reassure them Goliath was backed 115%. Now the key question is, who's the auditor? Who did the audit?
New donation from Tobias Wolf.
Management Services.
Thank you, Tobias. Really
now, just the
appreciate it.
name of that company got people pretty confused right away.
I was on the phone to a fire lady, and she was raving on about he's been in Forbes magazine. And I'm going, they pay for this. it's common. It's sponsored advert. No interviewer, no name. And the funniest one, well, it wasn't funny, but they said, but they are they're invested with BlackRock. And I go, no, it's Black Block. And I said, go to my Black Block, it's very confusing, .com. And it's not, and that's in the contract. You've just misheard it.
So Black Block, a fly-by-night company, not BlackRock, the world's largest asset manager, is the actual people who audited this company. They are led by a guy named Matt Burks, and he's going to be very important to our story.
I'm just going to say, the fact that he didn't just go after Christopher like the other lazy reporters and actually put Matt Burks' face and name on the screen. This guy, to me, is even a bigger target than Nick Petrillo. This guy is already running a new Ponzi scheme, and a guy by Jonathan Mason is promoting it to people who've lost all their money. And this is what every Ponzi scheme that I'm part of, they actually do. They get victims and promise them a new opportunity. And not only that, we've got recordings of Jonathan Mason.
New donation from Jesse B.
Jesse B, thank you very much. We've got
new donation from Small Tipper.
Small Tipper, that's all right, mate. It's not about the money, but appreciate the support.
New donation from Small Tipper.
Okay, that's good. But the point is, they mentioned Matt Burke's name. He's top 5 co-conspirator, and he's not even been stopped or charged with anything yet. I can't wait to hear what they charge him with. And also, he was running a company.
New donation from someone.
Someone, thank you. They're running a company called Wealth Management, MD, and they seized $141,000 and they handed it over, in other words. And that was a bank account that used it was going after the retirement funds. So long story short, the fact that Coffee's put this guy's face on the screen is just priceless for me and my team of Avengers.
Story, because this is when I started to first hear about retirement funds.
Yeah. You want to know more nonsense? Those retirement funds that they rolled over, or I'm still actually confused as to how they were able to take other people's retirement funds.
I just want to thank that guy for actually going on camera. Out of hundreds of people that we've contacted, very few would do it, and I've talked to him on camera as well. And I just want to say thank you. I know you watch my videos, and I just want to thank you for doing so. And you've done really well for the community. Thank you.
They took people's retirement funds?
Yeah. So people rolled over their IRAs, and I'm not saying this as in I know anybody who did this, but that's what they also promoted the retirement fund stuff.
They promoted that?
Yeah, as in like they had like this team doing.
I
think it was Pierce Curry is from what I've
Wealth MD?
Heard the name. Yeah, something like that.
Now you can see the recognition from me there. My Wealth MD was this program I had seen pop up over and over again. Well, if you go to their page, who do you find behind it? None other than Matt Burks. The same person behind the audit company, BlackBlock, is the founder of My Wealth MD, and I got a copy of their investment contract. What I noticed is it looks very similar to Goliath's, but it gave you lower profits, only 2% a month for the first $1 million. And to make it stranger, Goliath Ventures was nowhere mentioned on their contract at all. Not only that, the website was clearly catered to older people, which concerned me. Unlike Goliath, they had videos of retirees endorsing the company.
Definitely recommend them in particular for any financial retirement
John
goals.
Little, sorry.
Yeah, I'd feel very confident giving his name out to any of my friends or relatives.
I would recommend
John Little.
Anyone, friends, people I care about, have him meet with them and discuss their issues because I feel sure he can help.
Now, I guess the question is this related to Goliath if their name's not on the contract? Well, that's when Danny found an insider meeting between Goliath and Matt Burks.
This video is the reason we got so far down the road with Goliath Ventures. Thank you to the individual that gave that to us. Thank you so much. And that's why we're a team of Avengers. And I don't want you to underestimate what this video did for Goliath Ventures. They fell on their own sword.
Explaining how they'd be managing retirement funds through My Wealth MD.
It's $1 trillion market, retirement accounts. So unqualified money,
New donation
yes,
from
essentially
someone.
the way it works
Thank you,
is
somebody.
whatever percentage they get paid, the fee over that just gets split between the referring partner, director, and WealthMD. That's how it works. WealthMD does all of the work.
Wow.
You're responsible for zero.
Wow.
It's just half and half. You do zero work.
Zero work for you. This is a room of basically recruiters for Goliath Ventures, and what they're told is they could get retirement money and funnel it into MyWealthMD, who would manage the back end and split profits with them. And then someone asked, when can we start doing this?
For us.
Is this going to affect
Wait.
right now?
Right now it's available.
Real
right
quick.
Now. Yeah.
Time out.
Right.
Time out. Sit before you don't get too excited. If someone is currently at a job, they have a 401k, thrift savings plan, something like that, that money we can't touch. If they are currently making contributions into a plan, it is not eligible for rollout in service.
There is one.
Get them to retire today.
Back away from the mirror.
If someone has a qualified plan, you say call Matt. I know those questions to ask, and so if there's a way to get the money out, I will get it.
Oh my God.
Wow. When I saw this clip, I could not believe it. If there's a way to get the money out, I will get it. I mean, they were scheming to get retirement money, which types they could legally get. And from the testimonials on their website, it sounds like they did that.
We would meet yearly, and usually every time I came in, it was a pleasant surprise. The accounts going up, or they would find new accounts out there that I could transfer funds from one account to another. And
Now, this guy here, if you know him, I tried reaching out to whoever he is, but I'm not against these guys being paid actors. And I'm saying it for a funny reason, because this is part of they're dying by their own sword. If this was staged, I wouldn't be surprised. But now we can use it as evidence as what they claim they were doing. So getting, let's just say, fake testimonies done can actually work against you. Listen to that, Trustpilot. So if this is a fake testimonial, it basically is their own sword. If it's real, can the guy reach out to us? And shame on you to the guy that got paid to do this, if it is a paid testimonial.
make up bonus money. So there was those kind of surprises, but and there was a lot of them. So yeah.
Is this not completely insane? They were hunting down retirement accounts to add to Goliath, and the same guy running the retirement money is auditing Goliath and saying it's back to 115%. Now, at this point, I finish my whistleblower report and I send it off to the DOJ program on October 24th, 2025. And I'm nervous because even on the best days, it's an uncertain thing. It takes forever. But I know that Chris Delgado is very well connected. I discover he's donated to key figures. He went to the White House. And guess who he met?
New donation from Causal Tweeter.
FBI Director Kash Patel.
You are so fucked.
Why I know that person. Thank you.
I mean, of all the people, the one guy I've been talking about for months about Epstein, you don't think he actually saw those videos, right?
Coffee. It's a side channel. Nobody cares about the Epstein files.
Okay.
Well, these videos have like a few thousand views.
1 million views, yeah.
Yeah, you're fine. Don't worry about it.
Okay. Well, if you think so, I mean, I'll trust you. Because it actually gets worse than that. I mean, the worst part is that it doesn't stop there. He kind of, said that he might have Kash Patel in his pocket.
I have heard statements from Chris where he reckons that he's got Kash
New
Patel
donation
in the
from
bag.
someone.
What is somebody? That means that he thinks that if he gets in the that he's got Kash Patel.
You just have to imagine my morale on this case. It is at an all-time low at this point. I mean, let's look at the facts. Chris has retiree money.
G'day, mate.
Supposedly, he claims he has Kash Patel. And what do we got? Well, Danny is getting sued by Chris. He's already broke. I'm being sued in a separate case. I'm trying not to go broke. And I'm thinking, we can't do this. This case is literally David versus Goliath. The deck is stacked, except instead of David, we have Danny. And instead of Goliath as a giant, he has frosted tips and a few $100 million. Or at least we thought he had a few $100 million. We weren't exactly sure. I mean, soon we learned he probably wasn't as liquid as we thought. Ponzi schemes have a way of doing that to you.
We heard from numerous sources that some people weren't getting paid in November And then later on, we found out that it went back to October, that people had actually started missing their dividends.
So this is honestly the nightmare scenario that we were always trying to avoid, because when payments freeze, this is when it starts to hit the retirees, the investors, the hardest. They start to panic. They genuinely thought this thing was audited, backed. You know, they were told that. And then they're scared to talk now too, because Danny is getting sued. So at this point, it's November 2025, and I feel like I don't know what to do. So I just reach out to Chris Delgado. I don't know if I'm going to do a story, but I demand to see the black block audit details. Chris responds. He can't show me because he says that auditor is a witness in his case versus Danny. I ask how much money Goliath manages. Chris responds, hundreds of millions. Finally, I address the delayed payments. Chris claims he had to freeze the funds for a full forensic audit, and then says that they're actually going to be resuming. The next payments would come December 15th. Now, I was kind of surprised because that was only in a month that we'd find out the truth. Unfortunately, I later learned this is also what the investors were told.
I think that was just pulled out of his ass to make sure it wouldn't be awkward at the Christmas party.
Which we had people inside the event who had got through the security and were filming the inside of this event with Jason Derulo. This was like a big $5 million event that was just over the top. The people that we had in the event were telling us that it was no expense spared. Meanwhile, all money was frozen. I think it was on the 12th of, maybe the 10th of December. And then Christopher took off back to Dubai on the 15th of December. And that was disgusting at that time.
So right before payments are supposed to come out, they have this big $5 million party with Jason Derulo. Investors are feeling good. And then, of course, the 15th arrives. Nobody gets paid. And, you know, I don't know what to do. I feel terrible for people, but at the same time, you know, nobody's talking. There's still this threat of a lawsuit. And I've contacted at least probably 100 people for this story at this point who had money in Goliath or knew about Goliath. And basically, almost all of them are terrified or embarrassed. And at this point, I'm wondering if I can't get people on the record, you know, how else can I establish from 99.9% to 100% that this thing is just fully fake? And that's when I did some more digging. Specifically, I wanted to focus on a certain map I had seen. This is a map of Goliath Ventures money. It's something I put in my whistleblower report, and it basically explained how they claimed the money would be sent around. Basically, people were wiring money into Goliath that goes to Coinbase. Eventually, that's sent to Uniswap for liquidity pools, which then they paid people out of. And I realized, if this was on the blockchain, we should be able to see proof of this, like trace it back to these supposed liquidity pools. But where do we start? Well, I had some victims' crypto payout wallets that I decided to use. I traced them backwards through the payments because in theory, if Goliath is really using those liquidity pools, I should see payouts coming from wallets connected to them, right? And eventually, after I had done that, what did I find? There are no liquidity pools in this scheme. Well, there was a tiny little bit. What I found was a little over $20,000, but almost all of the money, tens of millions of dollars, was going straight from Coinbase to pay out old investors. And Goliath says themselves, the Coinbase money, where's it coming from? New investors. So putting this together, new money goes to Coinbase, which pays out old money. And it was at this point I excitedly brought my results to Danny to see what he thought.
So there's no incoming money.
Where do they have it?
So that's a graph of a Ponzi scheme. That's just brilliant. So that's fantastic. So that's great. I mean, that there is that's just everything they have said has just been just undone very simply, which is it's actually quite disturbing. That.
Why do you say that?
Well, they've just lied to everybody. They've just said that they were doing something, and I'm not crypto clever, and all of a sudden they've been telling everyone they've been doing pancake swaps, and somebody told me to say, oh well, you know, it doesn't make enough money to do the type of liquidity they are doing. And
new donation from
Small
Small
Cat. We've got a graph in front of us here.
Thank you, Small Cat.
Where it just shows there's no trading. It's a straight Ponzi scheme right here.
By now, I had all the pieces. I had the pitch, I had the proof, I had the Ponzi. I had done my best to report this thing, but people are not being paid at this point, and I don't care anymore. I mean, I'm going to go public. Whether I get sued or not, I've done my best to do all the due diligence I can.
That's the boy.
And
Whether
so
I get
it was
sued
at this
or not.
point, I start writing the story. And right as I do, right before I filmed it, the craziest thing happened.
Orange County man charged with running a multi-million-dollar Ponzi scheme posted $1 million bond earlier today.
The Justice Department says Christopher Delgado stole more than $328 million, but instead of investing it in cryptocurrency, he pocketed the money. And only we were there to ask him about it as he left the federal courthouse.
Only they were there because I told them all about it.
Mr. Delgado, West 2 Investigates. Can we talk to you about the charge against you?
West 2 News was the only news organization outside the federal courthouse as Christopher Delgado left the building. An ankle monitor now installed to track his whereabouts pending trial.
You can contact my counsel. Have a blessed day.
Meanwhile, Delgado left the federal courthouse Wednesday in a Rolls-Royce.
As you do.
You cannot imagine my shock when I saw this. Christopher Delgado was charged with running a $328 million Ponzi scheme. And almost better than that, immediately afterwards, I found out that the lawsuit against Danny got dropped in full. And this is where I really have to say, I have no clue, honestly, how much or little of my whistleblower report was used. I give full credit to the team who actually investigated and charged Chris for chasing down the facts. However, what I do know is that Danny was a massive help to everyone. The amount of information this guy dug up, along with his team he calls the Avengers, is just staggering, and I really have to give them credit. But honestly, if it hadn't been for me trying to get this whistleblower report, this video probably wouldn't have existed. I would have dropped the case for sure. It was only chasing down those last things, trying to prove this, even though I knew there was really nothing I could do, that drove me to get to this point. And given that Danny was such a huge part of that, I'll link his Ko-fi account if you want to support his work. He didn't ask me to say this. I'm doing it because I happen to know that financially he's not doing amazing. Let's just say investigative journalism, when you're being sued, is not very easy and you need lots of support. But honestly, this whole thing felt surreal, and I knew Danny had to be my first call when I heard the news.
Danny the heck. We finally got the news that Chris Delgado got arrested today. You were the first person I had to call. What was that like emotionally?
Well, I didn't absorb the information. It was just ridiculous. I did have a lot of interesting parts because I was talking to Homeland Security at the same time, and they didn't know he'd been arrested, or that they couldn't provide me any information about the arrest. And I said, well, I've got the document here. Because he rang me because I gave him the actual court filings, and he said, we haven't got that yet. How did you get it?
New donation
I said, I could
from
tell
someone.
you, but I'd have to shoot you.
It's unbelievable. I'm shocked. They never move this fast.
So John, who heads the investigation, said he's been investigating for 20 years, and he said this is the fastest that they've ever got an indictment done.
It always takes, Danny, let me tell you, it always takes years. Even I was just interviewing you.
Oh my God, we're done.
A moment ago, and we were both talking, this is never gonna happen.
When I found out, I actually burst into tears, mate, I'll tell you. Even when I got back to New Zealand, my partner was taking a photo of me walking through, and I just burst into tears. It's just hits you like a ton of bricks, this sort of stuff. And even just before we talked to you today, I've just found another lady that's in Canada. 230 odd thousand, put $100,000 in, sold her house, put the proceeds of her house into the investment, and also put some credit card money in there, and now she's just realised it's a scam, and she doesn't feel like she's got anyone to help her.
It's brutal. This has affected so many lives so negatively. I'm so happy that he's getting charged as he should.
We don't even really want this sort of result. You know, it's not why we do it. It is actually just trying to make a difference. The power of our investigations is where I'm prideful of that. The team that I have of volunteers,
you look awesome, guys.
Is absolutely first class.
We are first class. Yeah.
I can't believe we got it. We got it.
Oh yeah. Yeah. What are we celebrating?
The bet finally paid off.
Thank you, guys.
Yeah.
Wait, you knew about the bet?
Of course. What do you mean? It's your idea. Go all in.
Okay, all right. I wasn't expecting you to be so cool about it.
Cash came through. Cash came through.
That's what I'm talking about. All right.
I never thought. I've been making fun of him for a long time.
I'm saying,
but they got him. They got the arrest.
Wait. What?
Chris Delgado. They got him.
Oh no.
You pulled it together. I'm proud of you.
Hold on, I gotta make some calls.
Yeah, you take whatever call you need, champ. You take whatever call you need.
No, yeah. Yeah, no, the deal's off. The deal's off. Pull out. Pull out now.
He's brilliant at doing these videos, eh?
What? Are you crying?
I can't cry. You know I can't cry. I'm very sensitive about that.
I thought you'd be so happy.
You sold me out. You knew the whole time, didn't you? What happened to crime is legal?
That was last year. I mean, this is, I guess they catch some of them. We were wrong about that a little bit.
I'm ruined.
Crime is partially legal.
I'm gonna have to sell my figurines. Curse you, Cash Patel. Why? Why?
Well. You've made it to the last part of the video, but not the end. This is the part where we watch all the fine folks at patreon.com/CoffeeZilla who make this show possible. You guys know we don't do sponsorships. We don't shill out to private equity. Okay, this is an independent show because of you. And actually, we have a brand new investigation that just went live related to this video. We actually had a whole new investigation spawn. We opened a cold case that was basically created by a UFC Hall of Famer who exposed a Ponzi scheme. Super interesting story. And it intersects with this one in a fascinating way. You'll see some players from this. And it's only available right now on patreon.com/CoffeeZilla, as are all early episodes ad-free. So if you enjoy this video, you enjoy content like this, be part of what makes it possible. We really appreciate it. Sorry this one took so long. As you can see, we put everything into each episode. So thank you again, and I'm going to go watch and admire, really frankly, the names that could be you next episode.
Wow. Honestly, big moment for me. Obviously, it's awesome. Yeah, people often ask me my why, and it's like, I don't know how I got to be doing this sort of stuff. But I think everyone likes to make a difference, and I'm good at business networking because that's what my company was that died when COVID happened. But that was I've watched that video 4 times now, maybe 5, and every time I watch it, I get something I missed. So hopefully you're going to watch it more. Look, CoffeeZilla is a true journalist, in my opinion. He's incredible. I've subscribed to his Patreon, and as I said, the next, like if you know the story behind, like people are seeing all the donations that I'm receiving today, it's pretty amazing. It's fantastic. But I've been doing this for 5 or 6 years. I've just been going backwards financially. Unfortunately, we don't have budgets. I don't have regular income. I rely on donations. I get criticized because people support my work by buying me a cup of coffee, for goodness sake. I theoretically, some people don't think I can have a voice because I don't have success with money behind me. When I'm busting scammers that look like they've got more money than a ball can shit, which doesn't make sense. But I'm not doing it for profit. I'm just doing it to survive. I think that I'm talented. I think my team that we've built up is very talented. You can go through my X account, you can go through my LinkedIn account, and you'll see that I've put links to a Signal account, which we're asking people to join. And it's basically called Danny the Heck Chat. And you can go in there and basically help us with our investigations. And it's sort of a public area. Good thing about Signal is that you can create an account and not put your phone number and give yourself a handle. So We've got one person, which I call the Terminator. We've got the Penguin. We've got Endgame, Crypto G, the Red Raptor. So when you're setting up your Signal account, if you don't use anything else and you want to help us fight crime, then I would recommend that maybe you just use Signal to help us. You know, the good thing about it, we have a general room where you can watch, have a look, and then you can message me directly because I don't hide my Signal address, and you can give me the intel directly, and I'll always keep it confidential. Now, I say always, if you are a criminal and you're trying to bargain with some intel so you can save your own ass, that probably won't be the best ideas. But the people that we work with haven't got a interest in anything that we're busting at the moment. They're all, and listen, people who I don't know why they're wires, they just help us fight scams. You know, yeah. Now, I do want to continue this because it's only 4:00 here in New Zealand, and I did actually originally produce a blog before this came out, and the purpose of the blog was actually to give a bit of a dig at real journalism versus what's happened to journalism. Why has it gone out the window? And I was hoping that when I saw Coffee's video, I would be inspired to compare the yin and the yang of journalism and real journalism. And I prepared a blog. I was sort of feeling like I won't be able to compete with that video, but I still have a message where I want people to realize what we are up against. I can go to my local police station and tell them about a scam. They'll say, where did it happen? I'll go, in America, and they won't even listen to me. I can go to journalists that have deaf ears, tell me that they can't report on something because the editor won't let them do it because they're going to get sued. So the criminals use mainstream media, legal mumble jumble to get away with the crime. And I'm continuously having battles with the FMA here in New Zealand because they won't report anything. They won't even act on anything I give them unless they can do it. The independent
New donation from James.
Thank you, James. Unless they can do their own independent research. But they don't hang out in Zoom meetings like I do. They don't ring up criminals and accuse them of being a scammer and ask them how they sleep at night like I do. They don't have Bob, who is our Avenger, who actually at Christmas time, last Christmas, he got all his good video recordings of where he rang up people and asked them why they're promoting a scam. We had 8 hours of footage, and we did it the year before. So we ring up these people and we go head to head. And I say to people, we're like in the trenches going after these scammers. And then we've got to compete with these government agents. Like I got an email from the IRS yesterday, well, this morning. And I give that email to my Avengers, and we researched the IRS agent to see who he is. And then he wants our intel. He wants a one-way street intel. He wants us to know. So we went back to him and we said, well, we actually have a $2.4 billion scam that we're investigating. And you've currently filed some documents in the courts about it. And we know everything about it. If you're interested, get back to us. We can give intel like that. The guy's probably sitting there going, $2.4 billion scam. Who's running a $2.4 billion scam? And we'll go, you are, because it's in America. And we're watching it happen. So this particular scam, this is serious how it works. So we've found a person.
New donation from Justin Lawn.
Justin Lawn, thank you very much. We've found a person who has been importing fentanyl to America. And they found out about it. And we thought, yay, he's going to get arrested. No. So he got a large fine. We believe a $50 million fine by America for importing fentanyl to America. He's going to get a fine. So this guy now moves his company over to a lorry driver, so to speak, somebody who doesn't earn money, and now he's going to take the fall. And they're now saying the lorry driver that owns the company, when we know really who owns the company, because the lorry driver's too scared not to own the company for the big gangster guy. And he said, yeah, put it in my name, that's fine. And now they're going back to the courts and they're negotiating the $50 million fine because they're claiming that the lorry driver guy that really owns the company is not able to pay such a large fine. We're pleading with the American government not to make this guy pay the fine. And this is the stuff that we get. But we can't get any, we just get no help from...
New Ko-fi subscription from Ethan.
Oh, Ethan, thank you very much. That's really nice. I might just show you how that actually, that works actually, because you might be interested. G'day, Greg. Nice to meet you again. Wonder what news he's reporting today. About the weather, maybe? That's not a dig over Greg, just saying. Let me know when you want to do some real journalism. I'm going to go to Ko-fi, just because I can. We are actually doing something that most people don't do, and that's replying to everybody that's donating, which is really, really nice. I have a goal of $100,000 here at the moment, and if you read the goal, you realize that I really do want to set up an organization called the Avenger Investigative Network. Whether that's the name we finish up with, I don't know. We're currently building a Discord server, and we will be going there, and we will really do some really cool stuff, analyzing stuff on the blockchain, which is really, really exciting. We've got guidebooks available. So people who donate, you can actually buy a guidebook. And this one here is called the Investment Scam Survival Guide. You can download it. So you might have some family member that's encouraging you to invest in something and you don't want to, and you're trying to tell them that they shouldn't be as well. Then you can purchase this book. You'll get a PDF, and it's 27 pages, I believe. Yeah, 27 pages. And it's basically how to survive if you are thinking about doing online investments, which is really, really cool. So that's one thing you can do. Another thing you might want to do is you can look at memberships. Now, the memberships are pretty cool because I don't do anything for them. I'm not doing this, to build up. Well, who wouldn't like a passive income? But I mean, we've got $5 a month. If you can afford $5 a month, it would make a huge difference. Now, I have 5 members paying me $5 a month. Currently, I also use Buy Me a Cup of Coffee, and people are using that as well. But it's not large numbers, but small numbers make large numbers. How do you eat an elephant? One mouthful at a time. All right, so you've got Scam Sniffer. That's somebody who just wants to support us. Digital Sleuth, somebody who we correspond with. Ponzi Slayer, that's somebody who I just about talk to every day. And we get people asking us to do scam investigations. That's what the donations are for. We want you guys to come to us and say, hey, is this a scam? And we'll investigate. And we'll get our team on it. We'll go through it and highlight all the red flags. The last one here is Avenger for Life, which is $30 a month. Also, you can join the YouTube channel. I think I have 4 different subscription plans starting from $1 a month. Now, it means you'll have to figure out how to log into YouTube on your phone, which is a pain in the bum. But if you can support us, then we can get enough money to actually keep this going, and that's what we do. So this morning before CoffeeZilla started, I actually had, I think I had 80 subscribers. So Coffee has basically said, he has basically, oh, look, it tells you I'm streaming, didn't know that. He's basically said to people, if you can support us, please do. And look at the power of that one YouTuber. That is a real powerful gift from somebody else doing a similar job to what I'm doing.
New donation from Dean Pert.
Dean, look at that. It comes up on the stage. Isn't that cool? And I've just managed how to do that recently. I don't know if that's going to be annoying, but I don't know about you guys, but I don't mind that sound. But that means that we really do exist. Now, before we got started today, we put out a poll, which we haven't finished yet. And the poll was, CoffeeZilla just exposed a $300 million scam. What impressed you the most? The blockchain detective work.
New donation from Netanel F.
Netanel F. Thank you very much. Appreciate that. The lawsuit backfiring. Remember that these guys tried to sue me from America, even though they had no jurisdiction over me, just to shut me up. Danny crying on camera. That's not very nice, guys. Look, we've actually got 10% of people enjoyed seeing me crying on cameras. That's just funny. And real journalism still exists. And that's what we're all about. Now, this is what I call like independent journalism. And independent journalism is old-fashioned journalism. We do it fearlessly. I used to be in a religious cult, and one of the songs that just popped into my mind, I had flashbacks, was, as an army, let us go to combat the wicked foe. So as an army, as an independent journalists go, let us combat these scammers head and toe. I don't know. But I'm really looking forward to this video here as well with watching. I'm not going to give any snippets of it. Go and support CoffeeZilla. And this, all I'm saying that for is because I've met this guy. This guy's not, he's been sued at the moment by somebody's trying to sue him. Is it another rich guy, Logan Paul? I always forget his name. But this is not fun. This is not entertainment. This is our lives that we were, like when I went to see Stephen, it was a big risk for him to let me know where he lives. I wouldn't remember even if you paid me to go find where it lived. I turned off all my location services and everything. He picked me up personally from where I was staying and took me to meet his wife and his family. And these people, he's not living the dream. And he's putting everything at risk to come to you, not for entertainment, but to actually do good stuff. People don't do that these days. CoffeeZilla's also got another channel as well, which I haven't got in front of me, but if you go to search for CoffeeZilla, you'll see he's got a second channel. Whereabouts is he? There he is. It's called this one here, and you can actually participate, be part. So a day ago, 3 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago, 4 weeks ago. So he's pretty cool, and he just has.
Our government is complaining that people are gambling too much. The same government that has overseen the destruction of many of the consumer protection.
So you get one-on-one with Coffee. So as I said at the start, CoffeeZilla. Where are you from in New Zealand? Now that's a question you don't ask people who investigate scammers. Who said I'm in New Zealand? Me. Oh yeah. But yeah. So yes, everyone's at danger.
New donation from a Cybet security advocate.
Cybet security advocate. Love the name. But anyway, go join help us with our investigations if you can. When we are investigating, you'll see that we'll make it very known. I'm in this whole investigation, I'm bitterly disappointed with law enforcement and what they can and can't do, or whether they don't work with any civilians, so to speak. And I understand it's got to the stage where privacy protects everybody, but unfortunately, the gangsters are actually doing the same thing. If you're on my YouTube channel, you land on here. These people a lot of people don't know how to navigate. If you click on live, you'll actually see I've got 4 lives actually lined up, and I'm doing one at the moment. So if I just refresh that page, it'll be quite funny. I'm going to show you something. So you'll actually see I've currently got 46 people watching me. When I busted BG Wealth Sharing, I had 250 people in my chat room for, 5 hours. And I'll just tell you a wee secret. If I was doing it for the donations on that day, I think I received maybe $25. So the power of, what you report can influence the amount of money that you bring in if you were doing it for the money. And I mean that because if I really were doing it for the money, I would be biased on what type of things I report on. I would probably go after the clickbait stuff. Reporting your little old lady who lost $30,000 of her life savings doesn't bring in the dollars for a YouTuber. And that's what true journalism is about. You work on your heart and go after people that when it's just not right, when you've got ethics and all that sort of stuff. But anyway, if you go to my live section, you'll see when I do go live. If you go to the video sections, you'll actually see videos that I've chopped up. So this video here, there was somebody in it who didn't want to be in this video. So I blurred them out, put it back on, but they actually managed to get this video removed to my surprise. And now it's going back online with blurred people in it. But that's because people are trying to stop this lady, Lee Meadows. Actually, she was getting $100,000 a month from promoting a scam. And now you've got people trying to protect her. And we report on it. We fight with YouTube to keep these videos live. This particular video, we are currently streaming on 6 different locations at the moment. We turn some of these broadcasts into blogs. We turn them into podcasts as well. And my podcast has got a footprint of about 18 different podcasts around the world. And that means when you search for these individuals, let me show you, like just searching for Lee Meadows on the internet, you can see he would compete with all the Lee Meadows in the world. Oh, he must have been a bad example. But if I went Lee Meadows, BG Wealth Sharing, because that's the scam that she was part of, then you can actually see that my content does actually come up. And that's what people will be searching for. And when they click on that sucker, then it takes you off to, hello, my website's getting overloaded. Oh, that's interesting. That is interesting, actually. I'm going to show you something interesting because my website may be getting digitally attacked again. So that's a shame. So my website was actually getting a lot of stats, and you can actually see my website's been taken offline. My website's protected by Google Project Shield, and when I get off this live video, now we believed that we were getting attacked by Goliath Ventures for 2 months solid. They just attacked our website. So I wouldn't be surprised if that's happening again, just to stop me. So I now need to turn on one of those horrible things that you see when you go to websites, because my website's getting overloaded. So I've got people that help me, so I'll have to turn on that there again. I'm just going to give that to my admin guy and see if we can get that ball rolling. But it's a continuous battle. What I'm getting out about is it's a continuous battle fighting the scammers, because they use dirty tactics to come after us, and it's scary stuff. So I'll now need to turn on my firewall that is protected by Google Project Shield and fix that problem. It looks like that's been happening. So if you go back to the screen over here, I have been getting up to 400 people every 30 minutes on my website, which is a lot of traffic. But at the moment, you can see in the last oh no, it's still there. I don't know. I wonder why that's happening. I don't know. That might be just me. Steve, if you're watching, can you check out theheck.com and just, I know you can't fix it. I'm just wondering if you're seeing the same thing I'm seeing. Interesting. That's what we do. All right. Gifted membership. Oh, look at that. How do you do that? Oh, wow. Thank you. I don't even know how to do gifted memberships. Thank you very much for gifting memberships. That's really, really nice. You can't see that on the screen. I don't know how you can bring that up, but that is awesome. Thank you very much. You're awesome.
New donation from TanGRLPWR.
Right. Don't worry about it now. But fortunately enough, as long as I don't refresh the page that you're looking at, we can actually still do the blog. So what I want to do now is actually go through the blog that I wrote because I was pissed off with journalists. And I'm probably a bit tired to read it, but I basically going to listen to a section and I'll comment on what I think might be easier. Let's have a go.
You don't get the story by waiting for a court filing. You get it by knocking on doors before anyone else realizes there's a story. I've been sitting on this for a while now, and it's something that's been bothering me more with every passing month. Not just because of what's happened with Goliath Ventures Incorporated, but because of what it's exposed about the current state of journalism, how stories are chosen, how risk is managed, and how truth is often delayed until it becomes legally safe to repeat.
Yeah, so what I'm sort of saying is we can't talk about Fight Club unless we have a court document from Fight Club, which is ridiculous.
I've just come back from the United States. I was on the ground in Orlando, not reacting to a headline, but chasing a story before it became one. This wasn't speculation. It was months of work going back to the 1st of September, 2025, building a timeline, identifying patterns, speaking to people inside the operation, and documenting behavior that didn't align with what was being promised. I wasn't sitting behind a desk waiting for confirmation. I was actively collecting it.
Wow. Okay, so I've just turned on some security features, which will hopefully make my website work in about 10 minutes. Let's have a look.
While I was there, I did what journalists are supposed to do. I picked up the phone. I rang TV stations. I contacted newspapers. I sat down face to face with reporters and walked them through everything: documents, names, timelines, inconsistencies, and the structure behind the operation. I gave them the full picture, not just a headline, but the groundwork that would allow them to verify it themselves.
Yeah, so basically I gave them it on a platter. Hey, thanks for your support in the chat room. I'm just turning on Google Project Shield now, and hopefully we'll have our website back in a few minutes.
And the response was almost identical every time. They wanted a court filing, not leads, not evidence, not patterns, not the perspective of someone who had spent months inside the story. They wanted something already stamped, filed, and safe to repeat. Something they could point to if the story came back at them legally. They weren't looking to uncover the truth. They were waiting for permission to report it. That's when it really hit me. We're not looking at the same kind of journalism anymore.
Yeah. What is it with these, like they wouldn't report on anything unless they had a court document. It was crazy. And I could not get past that barrier.
New donation from someone.
Thank you, someone. Someone busy's really kind, aren't they, lately? I don't know why it comes up with someone.
The Goliath I went up against when I first started digging into Goliath Ventures Incorporated. It wasn't a headline. It wasn't even public in the way most scams are. There were no obvious ads, no aggressive marketing campaigns, no mass recruitment funnels flooding social media. Instead, it moved quietly, through introductions, referrals, and trust networks. People bringing in people they knew. That's how it spreads, and that's why it takes longer to surface.
Yeah, so like all good Ponzi schemes, this one was quite different than other ones that we've done previously, because we've been doing this for 5+ years. But this Ponzi scheme was the same as everyone else. It went through friends and family. So I get people telling me, I don't want to dob in my friend. Literally, was it yesterday? I think it was yesterday morning. Somebody said to me they don't want to dob in their friend because they're in the same boat as they are, but they referred me into it. But I want to dob in the person behind my friend. But if you went back to the friend would probably say, I don't want to dob in the friend above me because they're a good friend and they're in the same boat as me. But if you go to the person above them, they would probably say they don't want to dob in their friend because their friend's in the same boat as them. But I'll dob in the person above them because I don't know them. You see how it works? And that's an oxymoron that I can't believe.
There's a pattern to this kind of operation. It doesn't rely on convincing strangers. It relies on leveraging existing trust. By the time someone is introduced, the credibility has already been transferred. You're not evaluating the company objectively. You're trusting the person who vouched for it. That layer of separation makes it much harder to challenge, and even harder for people inside to step back and question what they're part of.
Yeah. So
New donation from someone.
Thank you, someone. Busy person, there's somebody. So it is definitely like that. It is all about building trust. I mean, I can't express that enough. All these scams are about building trust. So once you've built that trust, you trust the system, you invest in the system, and then it falls over and you lose your money and you go back to the person that you trusted and you still trust them. You just may not be listening to the next opportunity they give you.
What stood out early for me was the disconnect between what was being claimed and what was actually possible. The returns being discussed didn't align with anything I'd seen in legitimate liquidity pool activity. That's not a matter of opinion. It's a matter of understanding how those systems work. At the same time, the messaging inside the network was tightly controlled. Questions weren't encouraged, and when they did surface, they didn't gain traction. That combination, unrealistic returns paired with controlled communication, is something I've learned not to ignore.
Yeah, unrealistic returns paired with controlled communications. They're all the same. All these scams that we go after, all of them have the same. Oh, thank you very much. Panic79, Canadian. Good on you, mate. Thank you. Really appreciate that. Oh, look at that. Oh, look. First time I've actually received a, what are they? Is that a super chat, isn't it? I don't get too many super chats. I've just had somebody do gifted memberships, which is amazing, which I don't think I've ever seen that before either. See what happens when you get an audience. It's really, really cool. So thank you very much. Yeah, so what I'm getting at there was, you're in a controlled environment now. You're in a community, and you're told not to listen to the naysayers. Unfortunately, they call me a naysayer.
Once I started publishing those concerns, The response was immediate. I contacted organizations connected to the company. I put my concerns in writing. I made it very clear where I stood and why. This wasn't vague commentary, it was based on patterns, behavior, and inconsistencies that didn't hold up under scrutiny. The following day, they filed a lawsuit against me in the United States. I'm based in New Zealand. That context matters. The lawsuit wasn't about correcting facts or engaging with the claims being made. It was about creating pressure and testing whether I would back down.
Yeah, unfortunately, I didn't back down. I didn't. If anything, it confirmed I was exactly where I needed to be. If you're not getting flack, you're not over the target, as they say. Asking questions that someone didn't want to answer publicly. Boots on the ground, not behind the desk. This was probably the most exciting thing I did.
Instead of pulling back,
New
I doubled
donation
down.
from someone.
I got on a plane and went to the
you.
United States. If this was going to be reported
look at that.
properly, I wasn't going to do it from a distance. I
comes up
wanted to
big.
put the information directly in front of the people whose job it is
Thanks,
to
mate.
investigate and publish it, not filtered through emails or second-hand summaries, but face-to-face.
Look at that, these super chats. That's what they come up like. So what was the other one you did then? It must have been I haven't seen that before. It's an emoji, is it? Oh, right. I think I understand it now. So that's what a super chat looks like. And then if somebody gives us an emoji, it takes up the whole screen. I need to actually move that down there, don't I? There we go. That's a big screen. I wonder if you can make it a bit smaller. Just saying, oh, yeah, that works.
New donation from Fuzzy Wingnut 644.
Thanks, Fuzzy Wignuts. Where'd you get that name from? That's a crack up. Thank you very much. Yeah, that's appreciate it. Alrighty, so what are we doing here? We're going, so I doubled down. This is what we're talking about is when I went to America. I thought, oh, what the hell? I'm going to go do the investigation, get on the ground. Going to America was pretty scary. And I thought I'm going to go on the beat, as they say, and go knock on the doors, literally, with...
I walked into newsrooms.
Yep.
I sat across from journalists. I laid everything out: documents, timelines, patterns, inconsistencies, and the structure behind the operation. This wasn't theory. It was months of work, built piece by piece, showing how the story held together. I even sat down for a full hour-long on-camera interview with a local TV station in Orlando. They asked the right questions. They understood the mechanics. There was no confusion about what was being presented.
Yeah, so that was Fox 35 views, and I unfortunately, the guy actually had interviewed Christopher Delgado initially. So the fact that I was back in the same newsroom talking to the same person that interviewed Christopher Delgado 2 years prior was kind of an oxymoron in a way. And he wanted to know my story. Obviously, they'll still have that story online. Be interesting to see if they use any of the footage. But instead, he told me that I should wear maybe a tidiest t-shirt to my No Scam brand. I don't know if you've seen my brand of shirts, but I am going to get polo shirts. But see, no scam. And the green part is quite cool because I've got a green screen. So let's have a bit more.
But understanding something and reporting it are two very different things. When it came time to publish, silence. Then everything changed the moment Christopher Delgado handed himself in. As soon as there was a federal hook, a charge, a filing, something official, the story appeared everywhere. Headlines, coverage, breaking news. The same outlets that had the information earlier now had something they could safely reference.
Yeah, so this was the funny stuff. It was once they had the breaking news and the court filings in their hot little hands, they started chirping about it.
And with that shift, the narrative reset. Not one mention of the person who had been chasing the story for months. Not one mention of the whistleblower they had already sat across from. The groundwork disappeared, replaced by what could now be confirmed through official channels. That's not a complaint. That's an observation, because what it shows is a fundamental shift in how stories are built, not from the ground up, through investigation, verification, and risk, but from the top down. Wait for the filing, then report the filing.
Yeah, lazy, it's called.
New donation from someone.
Thank you very much, someone. Thanks. That's the model. That's not investigation. That's documentation. What independent journalism actually looks like. While all of that was happening, someone else something else was unfolding behind the scenes. And this is where the contrast became clear. Not everyone waits for permission. Not everyone needs a court filing to start asking questions. Some people still approached a story the way it used to be done. Start with evidence and follow it wherever it leads. And that's it. You may not even like where the evidence goes. I'd already been corresponding with CoffeeZilla, a YouTuber and cryptocurrency investigator known for exposing scams about Goliath Ventures Inc. Before I traveled to the United States, the trip wasn't public. It was quite a desperate move to continue the investigation on the ground without drawing attention to what I was doing or where I was going. So I literally went to America. I packed up my studio and took a big bag of electronics with me. Now, traveling as an independent investigator into America with a bag full of recording gear, laptop, everything you could think of except lighting. I hide lighting, and I set myself up in Washington, D.C., so I could carry on broadcasting while I was on the road. And I've got, video footages. If you go to this blog, you can actually watch my video and you can actually see my setup. And I also met some of my Avengers along the way, which is really, really exciting. So while I was there, I let him know I was in the country and would be moving around for a few days. I suggested that on the way home, I could adjust my flights to stop and see him, and I could go through everything face to face. He told me he was also looking into Goliath. I was hoping he was. I was hoping that somebody else would enlarge my echo instead of hearing echoes. I saw the value of sitting down properly. And saw the value of sitting down properly. He covered the connecting flights to Houston and offered to take care of the accommodations so he could make it happen, which is very generous. What followed wasn't a quick interview or a surface level accommodation. We spent the day together. I didn't help him dig his garden. I didn't help him mow his lawns. I'll just say that. We went for a walk. We sat down and broke bread. We had a feed. I met his family. And then we got to work, going through the investigation in detail inside his $10 million studio. I always like saying that. There was no performance to it, no theatrics, just two people focused on the same objective, understanding whether the story being told matched the evidence behind it. The level of information shared on that day was actually world class. Not because of the sensational, it was sensational, but because it was structured, verifiable, and consistent. Everything I'd researched, everything he had researched, we compared notes. He showed me stuff I hadn't seen before. Wanted to see me looking at something. I remember when he did open up the laptop and he showed me the liquidity pool figures, how much money they actually had in the liquidity pool. I thought it was $19,000, but he said in his video it was just over $20,000 for a company that was theoretically using this to generate returns for the $328 million it got from investors. $20,000 was found on liquidity pool traders. So I was meant to react to that when he showed me that, and I looked at it and I said, I don't really know crypto, mate. But anyway, it was interesting. The kind of material that doesn't fall apart when you test it. It becomes clearer than what happened when you move beyond assumptions and actually work through the data. He didn't rely on summaries or secondhand interpretations. He went through the raw material. Was it transitions? Transactions, water flow, contract structures, timeline, and pattern behavior, the underlying mechanics that most people never see. But that tells you everything once you look at it. That's where the difference is made, because once you've moved past the surface level claims and start following the money, that's what I often say, the story either supports itself or it doesn't. In this case, it didn't. Steve didn't want did what any proper investigator should do. He verified everything independently. He didn't rely on conclusions. He didn't take anything for face value. He tracked it himself step by step until the data told its own story. And that's what came out in the process. And what came out of that process wasn't opinion, it wasn't speculation, it was clear evidence backed by conclusions. There was no meaningful trading activity supporting the returns that were being promised. And that's what he showed me on the laptop, and I was meant to react. I'm sitting there trying to understand it. What we were looking at was new investor money being used to pay earlier investor money, which is a Ponzi scheme.
New donation from someone.
Thank you, somebody. Not only a side effect, not as transparent temporary imbalance, but as a core part of how the system operated. There was, I never get that word right.
Mechanism.
That's the mechanism, that's the illusion, that's the scam. Steve has now released a full investigation on his Patreon audience, where he breaks the process down in denial and shows exactly in detail and shows exactly how evidence is verified. Do you enjoy my reading, everybody? When the video goes public, people will be able to see the full picture for themselves, not just the conclusion, but just how you actually get there when you're willing to do the work. Yeah, I'm going to read this because I've had a long day and I could tell you some stories, but I'm buggered. But I want to get this story out on the day because I wanted you guys to see my reaction to what Coffee had done for me. And also my Avengers have been on the phone with me most of the day. And yeah, it's been a blast. So let's
The
go on.
Avenger who helped connect the dots. There's something else that needs to be said here, because if you look at this as a one-man investigation, you're missing how these cases actually come together. This wasn't just me.
No, it wasn't me. Behind every investigation I do, these people, quite often anonymous individuals who step forward because something doesn't sit right with them. They're not looking for attention. Most of them don't want their names anywhere near the story. But they've seen enough to know something is wrong and willing to share what they have. I call them Avengers. Not because it sounds good, but because it's exactly what they do. So I just really want to, I'm reading that off the screen and it's not me. I do agree with what I'm reading, and it's a great way of me expressing myself and maybe driving the point home for people who read these articles. But my Avengers are amazing people. As I said, I don't know them. I don't want to know where they live. I don't even necessarily want to know whether boy or girl, black or white, short or tall. But I value the intel they provide me. Now, it's not intel that you get every day, guys. It's intel that you have to research, verify, and put your name behind and back it. And we did that with Goliath, and we've done it with other ones, and we've had amazing success. I believe if we were a government department, we would change the footprint of scams growing as fast as they do really quickly. I honestly think that if a government department hired us to do some of their research and show them how we collect data, I reckon they'd be impressed. Open source intelligence.
New donation from Jay.
Thank you, Jay. Really appreciate the donation. Anyway, that matters because these schemes rely on silence just as much as they rely on money. People that keep their mouth shut, I understand why. I've heard all their reasons. I get it. I'm not deaf. But, you know, if you keep silent, then these scammers win. So that's where we come in, and we will improve our intel by getting people. I mean, I'll give you a great example. Everybody that's basically laid a proof of claim in the court system against Goliath, their names are now public. So why does the courts need to publicise people's names that are too embarrassed about speaking on camera, and then when they put a proof of claim in, their name is public? How come that works for who? And I don't understand why that is the case. So that is a deterrent and makes it harder for us to get people to speak because they know their name's going to go public. So if you don't want your name to go public, we can give you some advice on that. You trot off to your lawyer and he files the case for you. Then the lawyer's name turns up in the proof of claim. Simple things like that can save you if you're sitting on the fence. In the case of Goliath Ventures, one Avenger played a critical role, and they're in the chat room right now. They weren't sitting there with the complete picture. None of us were. What they had were fragments, bits of information on their own, that didn't look like much. It's like, I don't know, a bomb's gone off and you've got shrapnel and somebody turns up to somebody with a whole lot of bits of metal and a bomb disposal person goes, I know what those bits of metal come from. That's why we work as a team so well. But when you aligned those fragments with everything else, timelines, names, movements, transactions, following the money, the gap begins close.
New Ko-fi subscription from Ian.
Oh, thank you, Ian. We'll look forward to hearing from you. We do chat to people. I've been trying to keep up with the 3,000 donations we received today, and we are keeping up with a few of them, and we are. Thank you for everyone. So when we get people who join us in our group, when we get ourselves calmed down a bit, we will be able to, get a network of people together that may be able to help with our investigations. That's when patterns emerge. The patterns are that expose the operation, because scams like this don't fall apart with one big mistake. They fall apart when too many small mistakes consistently start pointing in the same direction. There's always a pattern. Every like we found we got a transaction of $250,000 and a guy that said, I just invested 1 day ago and I just watched your video. Now I want to get my money back. Can you help me? So I said, can you give us the receipt of the bank that you sent the money to? He redacted everything except the everything we needed. He redacted it except the 250,000. But we knew it went to Bank of America, and we knew it was deposited at 8 o'clock, and it was $250,000. We showed that to the bank. We used that to get the conversation going with the bank. They froze the bank account. The bank person that we were talking to came back and went, whoa, this bank account has got $100 million worth of transactions. We found out later that there was a $73 million bank account with the Bank of America. We were sniffing around a bank called Luminous Bank, trying to find a connection with Goliath Ventures. Eventually, we found that people had been using Luminous Bank to deposit money to invest in Goliath Ventures. And it started off with JP Morgan. So we followed the money, but everyone goes, I paid money, but when? And we go, oh, that might have just been when they started having banking problems. Yeah, it's really interesting. So I'm just going to read down to here because I'm getting a bit useless.
That's what we were seeing here. Not one gotcha moment, but a growing body of information that didn't match the story being sold to investors. That's how this work is actually done, not through a single breakthrough.
Yeah, it is. And it's a jigsaw puzzle. I often say to people, it's like a 1,000-piece jigsaw puzzle that you've lost the cover. And you do all the straight bits first, do all the color bits, put them all together, and then you look for all the unusual bits and you try to put them where you think the normal picture goes. And you don't know the picture. And you keep applying yourself, keep getting all the bits, and then eventually the overall picture becomes very clear and all the other bits fit nicely. And you might even realize you had some bits in the wrong place and you need to heat humble pie and move them around a wee bit, whatever it is. But those consistent memorial, what's that word there? Methodical pressure, but through consistent methodical pressure on the truth, we now built the database of over 300 individuals connected in the same way to do this operation. Sorry, got that wrong, but what I'm trying to say there is we have a database currently over 330 individuals, and everyone gave us those little bits of jigsaw puzzle pieces, and we put them together. Now we found out there was 2,000 people involved. Well, it could be 2,000 people involved. We know there was over 1,500 because we had different client numbers and they went up and up and up and up. And we followed the timelines of each individual. And we could see that Jack Robertson invested on 2024. And Mary Smith, she was invested in 2025 and she deposited her money via crypto, or she deposited her money via JP Morgan. And then we'd go to the other investors and we say, oh, and you put your money in through the Bank of America. And they go, how'd you know that? And we go, because we knew the timelines. And that's how we worked through it all. Let's have a listen to this.
We've now built a database of over 300 individuals connected in some way to this operation. That doesn't mean they're all guilty of anything, far from it. Some are victims, some are promoters, some are simply connected through proximity. But what it does show is the scale of the network and how far it reached.
Yeah.
And more importantly, it shows how something like this grows. Not overnight, not through mass advertising.
Yeah, but both layers of trust, connection, and gradual expansion until it became big enough that people assumed it must be legitimate. And that's how they grew. Because of their networking, people just thought this can't be a scam. And what did Chris say? He was always trying to make it a real company, simply because of how many others are involved. Right, the rise of safe journalism. I asked Grok a simple question. What's happened to journalism? The answer wasn't surprising, but it was telling. That's where, so we're seeing, I'm just going to read this part here. But that's what I did. I said, what happened to real journalism? Because I've been disappointed with it lately.
What we're seeing now is often referred to as journalism, where stories are built from press releases, official statements, and court filings, rather than original investigation. That's not speculation. It's been studied, documented, and quietly accepted across the industry. A significant portion of modern news content isn't independently produced, it's repackaged from pre-approved sources. And once you see it, you can't unsee it. A pattern starts to form.
You know, I get rung up by journalists and they want to know the story, and they very rarely quote me. I'll just see if my website's going again. Yeah, something's gone wrong with the website. I think it's been attacked, but I think I've got it back now. So there you go. It's back, and I'll be able to go through and see. Wow. Yeah, so my website's getting a denial server attack at the moment. I've just been working on that over the background while you guys haven't looked. And it went, it just died. So they killed it. Good on you guys. Well, that's what happens when you fight scams. But now I'll have this stupid screen pop up when you go to there for a wee while. But in the meantime, my website is now being protected by Google Project Shield. And I've lost my train of thought, unfortunately, but I did want to show you something really important. I'll just go back and see if I can remember. For the court cases, no, I clean forgot. I did have a method of my madness, but it's gone completely out of my brain cell. Court cases get filed. Now, there is something interesting in there, though. We couldn't get them to report on it. Oh, I know what I was doing. Right, back to normal here. All right, so see all these newspapers. These are all the newspapers that I've been in, right, along the bottom. You may have not seen that in time. New York Times, the Orlando Sentinel, The Guardian, Bloomberg, and you can click on them and go there.
New donation from Ankeep.
Ankeep, thank you very much. But this journalism, it took 3 weeks to get an appointment with her. She said she's a stay-at-home mum or something, but she works for
New
this
donation
company.
from Appreciative.
Appreciative, thank you very much. Pick a handle. Hey, mate, the name's exciting. That's great. And she actually covered my story and covered my news. And she put my name on it. And she talks about how I tried to warn the Orlando Economic Partnership. Christopher paid $200,000. They returned $190,000. But in here, she shows my letter that I wrote them where they wouldn't listen to me. Christopher paid $200,000 to have their logo. Now, from her story, they actually decided it would be a wise idea to give back $190,000 voluntarily through the court's receivers. But she mentioned me in it. All the other reporters won't mention me. It's frustrating. Court cases get filed, headlines appear. Well, that's a cliche. Is that true journalism? Police statement issued, written story. Press release published, articles follow. Every follow from something that has already been formalized, already been documented, has already been made safe. So basically, journalism isn't journalism. Journalism is, what do they call it? I think, what did I call it? It was actually, I can't even say it. What's it called?
Journalism.
Journalism. Repeating other people's, it's just lazy journalism. I mean, they can quote me. I'm willing to defend if I need to, whatever. But it's just like they just don't publish it.
Where's the part where someone knocks on the door before all that happens? Where's the uncomfortable questioning that doesn't come with legal protection? Where's the moment where a journalist risks getting it wrong in order to get closer to what's actually true? Because that's where real reporting lives. Let's be clear about what I experienced with Goliath Ventures Incorporated. The hesitation from media outlets wasn't because they didn't understand the information I was presenting. It wasn't because the patterns weren't obvious or the concerns weren't valid.
Yeah. And that's the funniest part that I really can't express. They believed everything I said, but wouldn't publish it. I think that's the part that really hit home when I'm thinking back now. Here's the evidence. Here's the database. Here's 5 months of solid research. Here's me spending 70 to 80 hours a week researching this. Not only me, my team of Avengers. I could message them at any time and I'd get a reply back within minutes. I've got messages coming up now to everybody and from everybody who helps me do stuff. At the moment, my website's getting a denial server attack as I do this video right now. My WhatsApp account has been brought down to its knees, and I can't tell you much about that because it gives them more evidence.
New donation from someone.
But the donations keep coming in, so maybe I just need a holiday. Let's be clear about it. What I experienced with Goliath Ventures, the hesitation from media outlets wasn't because they didn't understand the information. I was presenting it because the patterns weren't. It wasn't because the patterns weren't obvious or the concerns weren't valid. It was because they were not. They had no legal shield, no filing, no charge, no official documentation they could point to if the story came back at them. Without that, the risk sat entirely with the journalist. What's the world coming to now, eh? And most were willing to, and most weren't willing to take it. That's the trade-off we're seeing playing out in real time. Safety over truth, and when that becomes the standard, the consequences is predictable. Stories don't break when the evidence is there. They break when it's too late. And I'm sick and tired of being the ambulance at the bottom of the cliff. That's not my job. I'm not here to help you recover your crypto. I'm not here to help you file a court lawsuit. I'm here at the top. I'm going head to head with the scammers. With my team of Avengers, we make a difference, and we obviously have made a difference. Not that we can get the money back from these people that have lost money to Goliath Ventures, not that we can do anything about the person that decided that their life wasn't worth living anymore and then sadly died by suicide because of their connection to Goliath Ventures. That's sad. But we want to be at the top. The same co-conspirators that have been singing Kumbaya, my loved, about Christopher, who did this, and he never wanted it to become a Ponzi scheme, but he never had a business model in the first place. He had no income streams other than people donating to him. That is a bottom feeder. That is a guy that deserves to be not living in an $8.5 million mansion with a Lamborghini in the car, trapped in this place, can't go out anymore until he gets indicted. Hurry up and indict him. He just might have broken his bail conditions. He might be getting arrested right now if there's somebody out there who will do the right thing. John from Homeland Security? What about taking Christopher into the clink? Is he breaking his bail conditions? Are you going to enforce it? Or are you going to give him a warning? Would you like me to do a survey on how many victims would like to see Chris behind bars at the moment? Hey, he's been helpful in the investigation. Well, it's his fraud that you're investigating. He should be giving help to the investigators from the inside so that he can have running water inside his cell. And you should start negotiating whether he eats bread and water for the rest of his life rather than the hot food that everyone else gets 2 times a day. The cost of doing it the hard way. People often ask, why do I do this? It's not a simple answer because the reality is the kind
New
of work,
donation from someone.
thank you, someone, comes at a cost that most people don't see. I've been sued. I've been threatened. I've been put under legal action. See, honey? Legal pressure across multiple jurisdictions, not because I've fabricated anything, but because I asked the wrong questions in the right in the right places. Tends to attract attention from the people who would rather who's I've got to read that because even though I'm not saying it fluently like I'm talking, it is my blog.
Not because I've fabricated anything, but because asking the wrong questions in the right place tends to attract attention from people who would rather those questions disappeared. And that's the part that doesn't get talked about enough.
And the funny thing is, I get a lead from someone and I give them a right of reply. As soon as I get a lead from somebody, I fire off. I don't know if you noticed it, CoffeeZilla, in his video he released yesterday, he wrote to Eric, what have got his name, Eric whatever his name is, the guy, I don't know, whatever his name was, Eric from, I forgot that name as well. I'm getting names. But anyway, as soon as he wrote to him, then he's blocked. CoffeeZilla's blocked from its Instagram instantly. And that's what it's like. But that's what we do. So I find somebody who may have some connection with Goliath Ventures, I ping off emails, just like I did with the Orlando Economic Partners. As soon as I realized they were promoting Christopher, I wanted to know more about it. So I fire off a letter to 37 people in the company, and I get crickets. And then they block you, or they don't want to listen to the truth. It's just crazy because I'm asking the questions to the wrong people who know it's not right. Something doesn't add up.
It's not just online comments or empty threats. I've had private investigators turning up at my home, knocking on my door, trying to engage me directly. I've had pressure applied in ways that are designed to make you think twice, not about whether you're right, but about whether it's worth continuing.
Yeah, I'm not deterred. I actually quite like the excitement, actually. I'm a New Zealander. Didn't we start doing bungee jumping here for a reason? We're the adventure capital of the world. I enjoy the adrenaline. I enjoy the chase. I've even been to venues where they've chased me out before because I stood up and said this is a scam. And now I think I inspired CoffeeZilla to do, not CoffeeZilla, Crypto G to do the same when he went to a BG wealth sharing conference.
At one point, that pressure became very direct. I was offered $150,000 to take my content down. That wasn't a rumor. That wasn't second-hand information. That was put in front of me as a solution to a problem I had created by speaking publicly. The condition, it had to be off the record. And that detail matters more than anything else.
Yeah, because if what I was saying wasn't true, there's a very straightforward response available to anybody with the resources Goliath Ventures had. You challenge it publicly, you present your evidence, you correct the record, you maintain the claim in the open where everyone can see it. And that never happened. So I wrote to Goliath Ventures, I wrote to Christopher, and I get crickets. Instead, Matt Burks was going to give me wanted to get on a Zoom and talk to me. That never happened. He went all great guns with an email and then never followed it up. And he was representing Goliath Ventures at the time. He was there. I was asking him because he was in charge of doing the audit. It was ridiculous. Instead, the approach was to remove the information, not address it. And that tells you everything you need to know about where the real risk sat. Not with me, but with the narrative they were trying to protect. So really, to be honest, guys, I'm going to just read this whole paragraph about...
New donation from someone.
Thank you very much, someone. The modern David and Goliath story is big. It's Wednesday and I like joining my partner. We go for a run with our friends. So I haven't got too much longer to be here, but I do want to finish this blog before we get going. And it really was a David and Goliath story.
A modern David and Goliath story. I've described this as a David and Goliath story, and I don't use that lightly. On one side, you've got a well-funded operation projecting legitimacy at every level. Private jets, luxury events, high-end venues, political donations, and carefully curated public appearances. It's not just about wealth, it's about creating the perception of credibility. Because once people believe something is legitimate, they stop questioning how it actually works. That's part of the illusion, because from the outside, it looks successful. It looks established. It looks like something that must have been vetted simply because of the scale and the people involved. That's how trust is manufactured, not through transparency, but through optics and association. On the other
New
side,
donation from
you've
someone.
got someone sitting in Christchurch, New Zealand, working through fragments of information, messages, documents, conversations with people who aren't always sure what they're looking at themselves. No legal team, no newsroom backing, no institutional protection. Just a process of slowly building a picture from what doesn't make sense. That's the reality of how these investigations start, not with certainty, but with inconsistencies that don't go away. And from there, it becomes a matter of persistence, following leads, testing claims, speaking to people who are often reluctant to come forward, separating what's being said publicly from what's actually happening behind the scenes. It's not quick, and it's not clean, but over time, the pattern becomes difficult to ignore. Eventually, the story reaches a point where it can't stay contained. Now Christopher Delgado has been charged in connection with what is alleged to be a $328 million Ponzi scheme. That outcome didn't begin with a court filing. It began with questions that didn't have comfortable answers, and a willingness to keep asking them until the narrative broke down.
And that's what I thought that's what journalists were there for. You know, like you think about it now, every single media agent is waiting for that court document to come out and they report the news. Well, that doesn't make sense. It's crap. I mean, come on. If it wouldn't have been, if I didn't instigate the investigation with John from Homeland Security, who wanted the case. The first problem we had with Homeland Security was it wasn't in their jurisdiction. The guy that I was talking to, John, he was from New Jersey. And then he said, can you get somebody who's can complain to us who's in New Jersey so I can take on the case? My Avengers worked out that Punit Shaw was a realtor and he had a license in New Jersey to sell real estate. And that was it. That's what they used. They used that one person, that one connection that my Avengers found so they could start the investigation. And that was the ticket they needed to get into it. Other than that, they had to find somebody in New Jersey that was affected by Goliath Ventures. And we found a promoter that promoted over 500 people into Goliath. I've had people on the phone in tears because they've lost all their money. And they were in the 7% club. That guy was in there early. He was selling Goliath Ventures at 7% return when Christopher still had nothing to actually generate any income. It was just absolutely crazy. So let's just carry this on a bit more. I might be able to finish this blog before I duck off. So for journalists who want to do the work, this is my message, I think.
For journalists who want to do the work, I've been thinking about this a lot over the past few weeks, especially after sitting across from reporters, answering questions, and then watching the story get published without any of the groundwork that actually uncovered it. That gap between what was known privately and what was reported publicly is where this whole issue sits. So let's remove the excuse. PDF if you're a journalist and you've read this far, and you're genuinely interested in covering what happened with Goliath Ventures Incorporated, I've put together a full press release that lays out the timeline, key players, and core findings from the investigation, not as a finished piece, not as something to repeat, but as a structured entry point into the work that's already been done. Because that's what journalism used to be. You take the information, you verify it independently, you challenge it, you speak to the people involved, and you build something original from it. You don't wait for the outcome, you help uncover it. That part seems to have been replaced with something far more cautious and far less effective. The material I've put together reflects how this investigation actually unfolded, a clear timeline from the 1st of September, 2025, showing how the story developed before it became public. Details of the lawsuit filed against me, including the timing and context behind it, independent verification, including blockchain analysis that challenges the core claims being made, context around the $328 million case, now before the courts, and how it reached that point, direct contact points, and supporting material for anyone willing to go further. It's not a shortcut, it's a starting point. If you're serious about reporting this story properly, everything you need to begin is there. The next step, the part that defines whether something is journalism or just repetition, comes down to whether you're willing to pick it apart, test it, and follow it through yourself. The rest comes down to whether you're willing to do the work.
Yeah, so if you haven't noticed, in this blog, I've actually provided a downloadable PDF where press release is available for all the journalists that want to cover yesterday's newspaper stories. You know what I mean? So here's the whole breakdown. And in here, I'm pretty sure I gave the link here, and this goes off to the page where you click on Goliath. Here's the outline of the whole story, and there's the pictures of Kalpesh Patel. Coffee used those. Other people that may be associated with Christopher, who may have even rubbed shoulders with Christopher. I've got a lot of people. This is the photo they used. Nick Petrillo, remember, he brought 900 people into Goliath Ventures. And if you come down here, you'll actually see a series of blogs, and every one of those blogs that you see here has court documents attached to it. So what I'm saying, if there's any good reporters out there that want to cover the story, it's all in the press release. All the court documents are backed up in my 40 blogs that we've done with the help of my Avengers. And we've even stopped adding to the list now. It's all there on a platter if you want to report the real story. So what happened to journalism? That's the question that keeps coming back. Not because I think I'm the only one doing this. I'm not. There are still good journalists out there, people who care about getting it right and are willing to put time in. But what I've seen over the past few months and just in the last 24 hours is a system that shifted its priorities. It's slower to act, quicker to protect itself, and increasingly relevant on what's already increasingly reluctant. Oh, no, I'm saying that
New
right.
donation from El Moro.
Oh, Maro, thank you very much. Really appreciate
And
it.
increasingly reliant on what's already been made official before it's willing to engage. And that shift has consequences.
Yeah, down with the grifters. Love that one. Because when journalists wait, scams do not. We're finding that the time that we get the airtime that we need, the scam's already fallen over. And that's the problem. We have a lot of government departments who do these reports to save the people.
They move fast. They evolve. They rely on trust, momentum, and the assumption that no one is going to challenge them publicly until it's already too late. By the time a court filing exists, the damage has already been done. The money has moved. The victims are already dealing with the fallout. That delay creates a gap where bad actors operate without scrutiny, a gap where people are brought in through trust, not evidence, a gap where the story exists in plain sight, but no one wants to touch it until there's something official to point at.
That's the environment we've been working in. It's tiring, guys. It's tiring. That's where the independent journalist steps in. Not because it's easy, not because it's safe, but because someone has to be willing to do it, to ask the questions before the legal framework hides behind it. Someone has to be prepared to follow the evidence when it's still incomplete, to test the claims when they're still being made, and to speak up when the narrative doesn't hold together. That's what this case has reinforced to me, because this didn't start with a charge. It didn't start with a filing. It didn't start with a headline. It started with patterns that didn't make sense, and a decision not to ignore them, put it in the too hard basket. And if there's one thing this whole situation has made clear, it is waiting for the paperwork means you are already too late. Look, that's me done today. I have never, ever, ever in my life received so many donations from people thanking me, but it's not me. I'm Danny DeHeck, and I have a team of Avengers out there working my chat room, helping me do what I do. And it's a privilege and an honor to get some recognition, not because I want to have whatever that word notary is, but I want to have a bigger footprint out there. I want more people helping us fight these scammers. I believe that I can create more awareness and disruption in this industry than anybody. I'm a New Zealander, as I said earlier on. We love adventure. I mean, AJ Hackett started up bungee jumping here. We're the adventure capital of the world. That's what we do. It's quite fun sometimes. Certainly gets your blood boiling other times. It's an emotional journey. This is what I do. And I just can't thank people enough for the support I've received today. Can we make a difference? Can we stop mum and dad people from getting scammed? Can we find more important things to do in life? Build relationships and friendships? Because these scams are all about building trust. They build trust. They buddy up with you. They become your friend, and then they tell you to invest in something that they're going to get a commission from. And they have used deceptive marketing techniques to build that trust, and then they take advantage of you. And then you protect them, or you're too scared to speak because you're embarrassed, or you may have used money to invest in things that you shouldn't have. We can change things. The Avengers can. I can. Good journalism like CoffeeZilla can. Even being able to connect with people that I've been trying to connect with for 5 years, like people like Barogi, Trilogy Media. I can't communicate with those guys. They're in their own circles. I'd love to be part of, I have emailed Jim Browning and we've had correspondence, but no one's rung me up or talked to me and had a conversation, or, I'd love to network with other scam fighters and see what we can do, what we can really do. We don't need to wait for law enforcement to get around to it and cut through that red tape. We don't need to wait for a court filing before we do something and cause disruption and name and shame individuals. We could be called vigilantes. We don't need to wait. What else do we wait for? There's something else. I know it's the court documents. There's another thing I had in my mind before that. So not only that, so we've got the newspapers wait for court documents before they file because they're too scared they're going to get sued. Lawyers won't go after anyone unless they can prove they've done something wrong, and then it might become hearsay in a civil proceeding. And there was another side of it that everyone waits for, but I can't remember what it was. And I'm going to kick myself that I can't remember. That's why I'm still thinking about it. But I'm tired. But there's always a reason not to do something. I don't want... A couple of days ago, I woke up to a message that somebody had died by suicide. That was an investor of Goliath Ventures. And the person that told the person that I was talking to that was wanting a victim statement. I don't want to hear those things anymore. The Privacy Act protects a lot of people. Reach out to me on LinkedIn. Reach out to me on Signal. Let's see what we can do. We are looking for people to help us with investigations. We've been currently going after BG Wealth Sharing. It's now bridged out to other ones. If you have been guilty of promoting these Ponzi schemes and scams online and you didn't realize, or you want to come clean, you want to change your spots and help us go after the people that may have got you into it, then reach out to us. Anyway, that's me. It's not all bad. It's not all good. But I'll go off now and spend some time with some
New
friends.
donation from someone.
Keep the donations going because I do need money. This is really, really nice. And I'm overwhelmed today. But it's been an awesome day. Thank you to everybody. I just can't thank you guys enough. And thank you to CoffeeZilla, who's just given me some wind in my sails to continue doing this. And I can't wait until Coffee and I sit down and have a cup of coffee. Last minute funny story. CoffeeZilla, when we was meeting face to face and we just had lunch, he pulls out a can of Red Bull, and Red Bull's got a lot of coffee in it. And I said, he said, "Oh, do you want a drink?" And I said, "You've got Red Bull." I haven't drunk Red Bull for a while now because I'm actually, it's not good for me. But anyway, he pulled out and he said, "Yeah, I'm CoffeeZilla. Of course I drink coffee." So anyway, he only had a big can of Red Bull. And I was going, and he goes, "I've only got one can." I said, so I drank Red Bull out of CoffeeZilla's coffee cup. That's that was quite funny. But it was quite funny to share that moment. But I thought that was interesting because I actually like the watermelon version of Red Bull. But it doesn't do me any good, so I've actually stopped doing it at the moment. But just a funny story I thought I'd share with you. CoffeeZilla, I asked CoffeeZilla if he drank coffee, and he said he's CoffeeZilla. I should have investigated that first. Anyway, see you in the next video. Thanks for watching. I'm Danny the Heck.